Chapter 2239 Seal. Tens of thousands of years later, their names have been forgotten in the long river of history, and the people who live and work in peace and contentment in this world do not know that such a thrilling battle took place in a long time ago. Only an old man silently guards their crownless tombs. Only these tombs record the great achievements they have made, and only here can recall their dedication to this piece of world. You must have seen the result of that battle. Tian Yan showed a sad look on his face, and pointed to the dozens of graves in front of him. Yang Kai stood in awe and bowed deeply to these graves. Straightening up, he asked again, "What about the Soul Eater? Can it be killed?" Tian Yan shook his head slowly, and said dejectedly, "It's a shame to say that although a huge price has been paid, the soul-eating insects are really not something that can be killed by the creatures in this world." Yang Kai's face changed drastically, and he said in shock, "Senior, what do you mean, that Soul Eater is still alive?" Tian Yan nodded. How could this be? Yang Kai suddenly felt a little sad. So many strong people here died in order to destroy the Soul Eater, but they paid the price of their lives, but they failed in the end. Doesn't this mean that their sacrifices are not much value? Thinking of this, Yang Kai was startled and said, "Where is the Soul Eater now?" "Follow me," the old man said, and once again used his strength to wrap Yang Kai, and with a flicker, he came to the front of the dark altar. He waved his hand to disperse the dense fog, allowing the altar to appear, showing fear. Pointing at the altar with embarrassment, he said, "All the insects that plagued this world back then were sealed inside." No need for him to say, Yang Kai has already felt it. Because when he first appeared here, the soul-eating worm in the warming soul lotus unexpectedly started to move uncontrollably, as if trying to break free from Yang Kai's shackles and fly out of the body. At the same time, a buzzing sound came from the altar, forming a strange resonance with the soul-eating insects on the warming lotus. Yang Kai's complexion changed wildly. "You really have soul-eating insects?" The old man glanced at him with complicated eyes. It is precisely because of their commotion that the old man noticed it and went to Tianyao Mountain to find the reason, but he didn't want to. When the old man arrived there, you were no longer there. But the old man has guarded this place for tens of thousands of years, and he is very familiar with the breath of soul-eating insects. He felt that unique breath in Tianyao Mountain, and asked after the demon king of Yaoshan Mountain that day. He chased him to Shenyu City. "Senior, don't worry, these soul-eating insects of mine are not powerful and will not cause any harm to this world, and, when I leave this place, I will definitely take them away," Yang Kai said hastily. He thought that Tianyan brought him here to keep the Soul Eater, so he quickly explained. Little friend Yang misunderstood. Tian Yan shook his head slowly. "I don't want your soul-eating insects. The world is in danger of being destroyed because of this group of insects. How can I leave more soul-eating insects behind, and bring more soul-eating insects with you? You just came here to ask for a favor. What's busy?" Yang Kai was at a loss. "Old man, please, take them away too," Tian Yan said, pointing to the dark altar. The corners of Yang Kai's mouth twitched, and he said dryly, "Senior, you are just joking." He explained, "Because my soul-eating insects are still relatively weak, and I got them a long time ago, this junior can still control one or two, but the soul-eating insects that are sealed here, please forgive me for being helpless. These sealed soul-devouring insects have devoured dozens of Emperor Senior 3 layers, how dare Yang Kai get involved? If he really took them into Wenshenlian, he would die without a place to bury him in a short time. They are no longer as powerful as they used to be," Tian Yan said. "They have been sealed for tens of thousands of years, without the nourishment of their souls, and have already been extremely weak. Since you have a way to control your soul-eating insects, why don't you how to control them?" Yang Kai smiled wryly. "Senior thinks too highly of me. I was able to control my own soul-eating worms before, but within 20 days after entering this place, these worms of mine have faintly disobeyed orders. Waiting to go out this time after that, I have to figure out a way." At this point, Yang Kai suddenly stopped and fell into deep thought. Seeing him like this, Tian Yan couldn't help being shocked, and looked at him expectantly. He has guarded this place for tens of thousands of years, and has never left Foggy Valley. First, he guards the graves of his old friends, and second, he also guards the Soul Eater. However, it is always a hidden danger for things like soul-eating worms to stay in this world. If they can be sent out of this world to avoid future troubles, it is definitely what Tian Yan wants to see the most. That's why after he noticed that the Soul Eater in the altar had awakened, he went to find the reason non-stop, found Yang Kai, and made this request to him. After a while, Yang Kai raised his head, his eyes sparkling, and asked, "Dare to ask Senior, how powerful is this sealed soul eater?" Tian Yan heard the words, and replied cautiously, "According to my estimation, even if they are slightly stronger than your soul-eating worms, they are not much stronger." Just like that, Yang Kai's eyes lit up. If it's just like that, maybe there is still a chance. "How do you say that?" Tian Yan asked suspiciously. Yang Kai said seriously, "Senior must also know that the outside world is very different from this place. Although Soul Eater is lawless here, there are still many methods and techniques against them in the outside world. The junior has a strange treasure in his hand. It is the nemesis of all kinds of strange insects." "There is such a thing?" Tian Yan was shocked. Yang Kai nodded and said, "This junior originally planned to use this strange treasure to subdue my own soul-eating insects after leaving here, so that they will obediently obey orders in the future. If the soul-eating insects sealed here are not too strong, if so, the junior may not necessarily be able to tame them as well." What he was referring to was naturally the slave worm bracelet left by the Zong Emperor. This thing has a very significant restraint effect on strange insects and insects. The soul-eating insects will definitely not be able to resist its power. Of course, the premise is that the soul-eating insects cannot be too strong. If it is so strong that it can swallow even the emperor, Yang Kai didn't dare to mess around. But after getting Tianyan's answer, Yang Kai had an idea deep in his heart that made him want to move. "With the help of this treasure, I can definitely give it a try." Tian Yan looked excited. "I just don't know how sure you are. The old man brought you here and made this request to you. It's just a try. If it's too dangerous, that a euro's fine. At worst, the old man will guard it for tens of thousands of years. A euro." Yang Kai smiled slightly and said, "There is still a lot of confidence, but it still needs the help of seniors." Tian Yan said, "If you need anything, just tell me." Yang Kai Dao, "It's nothing more than my own soul-eating worms. Although they are a bit aggressive now, they still don't hurt me. But if the soul-eating worms that are sealed here are handed over to me, they will definitely enter my body. The spirit and spirit body, this junior should ask the senior to seal it for a while, so that the junior cannot compete with it. That's what he's worried about. If you want to take away the soul-devouring worms, you have to put them into your body first. In case they exploded into trouble, how could Yang Kai resist? What's more, after he went out this time, he still needed to sacrifice the slave worm bracelet, so he must not be disturbed too much. If he was caught in a battle with the soul-devouring worm, he would not be able to sacrifice the emperor treasure at all." What Yang Kai didn't expect was that after he made this request, Tian Yan showed embarrassment. Yang Kai wondered, "Is this difficult for senior?" Tian Yan glanced at him and nodded slightly. Yang Kai was startled, and said, "How could it be? According to what senior said, these soul eaters are already extremely weak, but senior, your cultivation is as good as the sky. With the strength of this old man, it's easy to frighten them for a while, but it's impossible for this old man to leave this world with you. Without this old man, the soul-eating insects will definitely lose their restraint." Yang Kai's eyes widened. He looked at Tian Yan in astonishment, pointed at the altar and said, "But senior, how did you seal them back then? The soul-eating worms back then were definitely 10,000 times stronger than they are now. The soul-eating worms were all sealed back then, why can't they be sealed now?" Yang Kai couldn't figure it out. Tian Yan said, ashamed. "This seal is not the work of this old man." Yang Kai raised his brows, and said in surprise, "Could it be that? Is it in line with the strength of everyone at that time?" "It is." Tian Yan nodded slightly, "But there is another force added to them, otherwise how could they be sealed for such a long time?" "What power?" Yang Kai asked. Tian Yan didn't speak, but pointed to the sky. Yang Kai was at a loss at first, then suddenly realized, then shocked, lost his voice, "Heaven and earth mighty power. Mirror soul." Tian Yan said, "This world has its own will and laws. The soul-devouring insect destroys all living beings and ruins the world, which cannot be tolerated by the mighty power of the world. Only when the law came, did we have the ability to seal the soul-devouring insect. Opportunity. After all, no matter how powerful our power is, it is just food for the soul-devouring insects. Only the mighty power of heaven and earth can form a layer of protection between the soul-devouring insects and our power to prevent them from devouring." With his explanation, Yang Kai immediately understood. This seal is roughly divided into two layers. One layer is the will of the mirror soul, which is also the mighty power of the world here, and the other layer is the power of the many strong men. The two layers of power combined into one to seal the Soul Eater for tens of thousands of years, one is indispensable. Maybe the senior let the junior communicate with the mighty power of this world. Yang Kai asked with bright eyes. Because at this moment, he suddenly thought of Granny Yu's previous plan. She wants to snatch Wenshenlian. Her biggest purpose is to use Wenshenlian as a carrier to carry the mirror soul and refine this world. If Yang Kai could communicate with Jinghan, he might not have the opportunity to do this. Once he succeeds, he will become the owner of the immortal mirror, and he can enter it anytime and anywhere in the future to refine his soul. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Poke motion GOL bar. A copyright A unknown currency A copyright A diaresis A%, IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0. Get real benefits. Iron-blooded experience, pure cultivation of immortals, the most popular mobile game, MoTNG, NetEase's 2015 Immortal Cultivation mobile game's first masterpiece, the most popular cultivation of immortals, everything is born for cultivation of immortals. Chapter 2240 Fatty. That's all. The key is that in this fugue mirror, there are many strong people, such as Yiquan, Beilu, Yuanfei, Zhou Dian, Yuan Qing, Lian Yan, and even the emperor-level existence Tianyan in front of him. If he can refine the birth body pill in the future, Yang Kai can summon a force to sweep the star world at any time. Just thinking about it makes Yang Kai's blood boil. Tian Yan smiled without saying a word. That smile was very meaningful. Yang Kai looked at his expression, and immediately understood that his previous conversation with Granny Yu might have fallen into the ears of this strong man, so he knew that he had the godly warming lotus, and also knew what he wanted to do to communicate with the will of the world. I couldn't help being embarrassed for a while. After a while, Tian Yan said, "It's not that I don't want to help you with this favor, it's just that, your cultivation base is too low. Unless the will of the world here takes the initiative to contact you, you will not be aware of it anyway, even if there is an old man Ida Euro not going to work for you as a matchmaker. A Euro. The power of Emperor Prestige, control the law." Yang Kai was thoughtful. Although Daoyuan warriors have understood the power of the law, they are only mobilizing and borrowing it, but the Emperor's senior realm can control it, and they themselves are the law. The mighty power of heaven and earth is the greatest law in this world, and if you want to communicate with it, you must naturally cultivate accordingly. Not bad. Tian Yan nodded. It's a pity. Yang Kai sighed for a while. Tian Yan said, "Since you have the seven-colored warming spirit lotus, you may not have a chance, but you need to improve your own strength to succeed. If you can really subdue the mirror soul and refine this world as the woman said, it may also be a good thing for the creatures here. I will wait and see." Yang Kai raised his brows, cupped his fists and said, "This junior will definitely do his best." Tian Yan praised. There will be such a day. Now, the most urgent thing is to deal with this soul-eating worm first. But senior, Yang Kai showed embarrassment, since you can't seal these soul-devouring insects, this junior dare not take them away. Tian Yan said with a smile, "Of course I can't do it with my own strength, but if I can borrow the power of heaven and earth to reproduce the events of the past, then naturally there will be no problem." Yang Kai's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he said eagerly, "It's not too late, there will be a senior." Tian Yan nodded slightly, and suddenly sat down cross-legged, motionless. Yang Kai stood quietly and waited. He knew that the other party wanted to communicate with the will of this world, and contact the mirror soul of the immortal traveling mirror. Tianyan is in existence at the level of a great emperor, so he should have a great chance to do this. Suddenly, the vast sea-like spiritual thoughts spread out, rushing to the four poles, disappearing into the void, and shuttled indefinitely. In front of this pure and powerful power of consciousness, Yang Kai felt that he was as small as an ant, his heart was shaking, and his face showed fascination. This scene lasted for 2 full hours. Just when Yang Kai was worried about gains and losses, Tian Yan suddenly opened his eyes burst into light, and he said in a low voice, "Yang Xiaoyu, have you prepared it?" As soon as these words came out, Yang Kai's spirit shook, realizing that Tianyan had successfully borrowed the power of heaven and earth. He quickly nodded and said, "Junior is ready." Tian Yan said, "You have the God-warming lotus, so the old man will use your God-warming lotus as the carrier cage, and seal the soul-eating worm inside. But you have to remember, even though this time the old man borrowed the mighty power of heaven and earth, and used the old man's own spiritual sense Zuo, but once you leave this world, this seal will not be able to last for long, before that deadline, you must deal with the Soul Eater properly, otherwise the consequences will be disastrous. Junior, write it down. Yang Kai nodded solemnly. The reason why the seal at the altar can last for tens of thousands of years is because it has always been in the world of the mirror, influenced by the will of the mirror soul, and nourished by the mighty power of the world. But if Yang Kai leaves here, the power of the seal that he takes away will be like a tree without roots, water without a source, and it is impossible to last for too long. Before the seal is broken, he must completely subdue the Soul Eater, or exile it. Yang Kai secretly made up his mind to pay attention. If there is no other way in the end, he will banish these Soul Eater insects into the void. Anyway, with his spatial supernatural power, he can tear the space at any time. Open your mind, Tian Yan shouted again. Yang Kai hurriedly sat upright, holding his breath and concentrating. The next moment, he saw the pitch-black altar melt away before his eyes. At the same time, there was a rapid buzzing sound, and as far as he could see, countless soul-eating insects came from the altar, flew out. Looking closely, these soul-eating insects seemed to be more violent and unruly than the ones he had, and the aura they emitted was also extremely ferocious. After all, these soul-eater insects were once extremely powerful, but only after being sealed for tens of thousands of years, they became weaker. Even so, they were even stronger than those possessed by Yang Kai himself. I don't know what the reason is, they all flew towards Yang Kai once they were out of trouble, as if Yang Kai had something to attract them. Seeing this scene, Yang Kai naturally felt his scalp go numb. He is now a spirit body, and the group of soul-eating insects in front of him is not the group he has always controlled. If he is surrounded by them, he will be swallowed up in a short time. Even if it is the fire of one's own consciousness, it may not be able to restrain them. But even though his heart was trembling, he did not escape. At the critical moment, Tian Yan made a leisurely move. The pure, rich and powerful divine thoughts of the great emperor level poured out, and at the same time, from between the sky and the earth, a rainbow bridge suddenly appeared, one end connected to the distant and unknown place, and the other end connected to Tian Yan's body. The aura emanating from this Hongqiao is so majestic, as if it can control the world. And as soon as the Hongqiao appeared, the Soul Eater suddenly became quiet for a moment, as if extremely fearful. However, Tian Yan didn't pause at all. The spell in his hand moved continuously, fused his own power into the Hongqiao, turned it into a ball of light, and slowly wrapped the Soul Eater. In less than 10 breaths of time, Yang Kai only had the light ball left in front of him. And after doing all this, the light on Tian Yan's body dimmed a little, as if it was extremely difficult for him to communicate with the mighty power of the world. However, he was indifferent, with a solemn expression, and stretched out his hand towards Yang Kai. The light group flew towards Yang Kai in response. Yang Kai did not dodge, but opened his heart to accept it. In a short while, the light group melted into Yang Kai's soul and spirit body, and under his guidance all the way, fell into the warming God Lotus and remained stable. Yang Kai stared at his body, and soon found the ball of light that sealed countless soul-eating insects in the lotus stamen of Wenshenlian. Even if it is sealed, Yang Kai can still feel the great threat from it. He knows better than anyone else that once the light group is shattered, the Soul Eater will come out, and then eat himself from the inside out clean. At that time, no one can save him. I'll pass on a set of spells to you, and you'll be familiar with it, so you can strengthen the seal. Tian Yan's voice followed. Yang Kai nodded seriously. The next moment, Tian Yan taught Yang Kai a set of sealing methods in great detail. Yang Kai learned very quickly, but within an hour he had already mastered it, and Tian Yan praised him very well. But after strengthening the seal with this method, Yang Kai suddenly showed a strange look, and looked up in a certain direction. In the direction he was looking at, thousands of miles away from the foggy valley, there was a small city. The city was not big and there were not many people. Just when Yang Kai looked over there, in the city, a little boy who looked only 7 or 8 years old, born with golden carvings and jade carvings, pink and chubby, and naive, turned his head and looking from the land of Foggy Valley. After a while, the little man's face became very ugly, and he kept muttering, "It's too bad, it's too bad. That old bastard Tianyan really dragged the young master into the water now, so he shouldn't respond to his words. This is really a loss." He murmured for a while, but no one paid any attention to him. At this time, a little girl with twin ponytails suddenly walked up to him, pinched her waist with her hands, and yelled at him viciously, "Little fat man, what are you doing? Why don't you go out of town with Miss Ben soon, and wait a little later?" If you don't a euro t, you won't a euro t be able to leave the city. A euro. The little girl was only about 7 or 8 years old, and she looked weird. At the moment, her willow eyebrows were erected, and she had an old-fashioned tone. You actually called me, little fatty. The little boy suddenly became angry, clenched a pink fist, and protested, You girl, do you know who the young master is? There was a bang. Before he finished speaking, the little girl jumped up and punched him on the head, causing his neck to shrink and his eye circles to turn red. Enough is enough, he yelled. What responded to him was a pair of oncoming angry dragon fists. After a while, the little girl strode towards the city gate, holding a little fat man in her hand. The little fat man had a look of grief and indignation, and was dragged behind by the little girl. Both eyes were covered with tears, swollen. In the land of Foggy Valley, Tian Yan looked at Yang Kai with a smile and said, Has Xiao Yuyang noticed something? Only then did Yang Kai come back to his senses. He looked at him unexpectedly and said, Senior knew this would be the case. Tian Yan said with a smile, Little friend Yang has the treasure of heaven and earth like Wenshenlian, and the previous seal has a trace of the power of heaven and earth in this world. With the help of Wenshenlian, Xiao Yuyang can easily detect where that person is. Yang Kai heard this, and quickly cupped his fists and said, Thank you, Senior. Tian Yan waved his hand and said, That's all I can help you with. If you really want to become the master of this world, you still need to work hard on your own. That is not easy to communicate with. The junior understands that if there is a chance, he must give it a try. This old man also hopes that there will be a day. At that time, maybe this old man can break through the shackles of the power of the law and go to the outside world to have a look. Tian Yan showed yearning. He and Yuewen have basically the same idea, they both want to see the outside world with their own eyes. It's just that the starting points of the two are different. Yuewen is for a higher level of martial arts, while Tianyan is purely for his own interest. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Poke Motion GOL bar. A copyright A unknown currency A copyright A diaresis A%, IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0. Get real benefits. Iron-blooded experience, pure cultivation of immortals, the most popular mobile game, MoTNG, NetEase's 2015 Immortal Cultivation mobile game's first masterpiece, the most popular cultivation of immortals, everything is born for cultivation of immortals. Chapter 2241 Return. 3 days later, Yang Kai slowly opened his eyes in one of the stone houses in the forbidden cave of Qingyang Temple. The soul returned to the body, and the feeling at this moment was so wonderful that he couldn't help but have the illusion of being reborn. I moved my hands and feet a little bit, but it didn't hurt much. Although I stayed in the stone room for nearly a month, Yang Kai's current cultivation base will not show any damage. On the contrary, it is because of honing in the world of the magic mirror that he has made great progress in his spiritual consciousness. He didn't go out in a hurry, but checked his current situation first. Looking inside, the sea of a euro consciousness is calm, but the sea water is stronger than a month ago. Before entering the world of the immortal travel mirror, Yang Kai's divine sense was strong enough to be comparable to Daoyuan third-layer warriors. This time, he absorbed so many soul origins in the world of the divine travel mirror, which naturally strengthened a lot. What's more, he also collected a piece of exquisite soul jade, but the power of that soul jade cannot be manifested in a short time, and it will be fed back to the soul by Wen Shenlian slowly in the future. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is the #1 person under Emperor Zun now with the strength of his divine sense. He has already stepped into the Emperor's realm with half of his feet, and he can break through obstacles smoothly only when his physical body catches up. In the warming God Lotus, the light group that sealed the Soul Eater still stayed there safely, without any abnormality. But Yang Kai knew that he had to deal with it as soon as possible. Putting such a thing in the sea of a euro consciousness was always a hidden danger, and it might explode suddenly at any time. Especially when the consciousness is injured, this matter must not be delayed. And in the sea of a euro consciousness, there is also a divine soul secret treasure, which is dim at the moment. It is the Ziyang Zan mask that Gao Shueding gave him before. This divine soul secret treasure was destroyed by Ban Qing when Yang Kai was fighting against Ban Qing, can no longer be used, and must be well nourished. Yang Kai sorted out the things he needed to deal with in his mind a little bit, and with a plan in mind, he took out the restriction token that Gao Shueding had given him before, opened the stone room restriction, and walked out of it. Turning his head and looking around, as expected, the other stone chambers were empty. Presumably, during the few days when I stayed with Tianyan, Sha Sheng and the others had been brought back here by Wen Zishan, and they should be taken away to heal their injuries now. And the fugue mirror has been standing in the very center of the cave, rotating slowly, exuding a magical light. Seeing this strange treasure, Yang Kai's heart moved. At this moment, he could feel that there was a slight connection between himself and the mirror. This connection comes from the seal on the Wenshanlian, because within the seal is the power of the mirror's soul. You came out. In the darkness, a voice suddenly sounded. Yang Kai was stunned for a moment, and hurriedly clasped his fists in that direction and said, Elder Gao. Gao Shueding was undoubtedly waiting for Yang Kai here. She nodded slightly after seeing him returning safely, and said, This time, something went wrong, which almost caused you to encounter a catastrophe. It's because I failed to take care of you. She is an Emperor Senior Realm, and frankly admits her mistakes in front of Yang Kai, without the slightest shirk, which makes Yang Kai very touched. He said, This matter is not Elder Gao's fault, but Granny Yu's scheming. By the way, how is Granny Yu doing now? Gao Shueding said, The master of the palace has his own opinions on the matter of the mother-in-law, you don't need to pay attention to it. What about Brother Sha? Yang Kai asked again. Although the souls of Sha Sheng and others are a little shaken, they are not serious, and they only need to rest for a few months to recover. That's good. Yang Kai breathed out slightly. Although he thought that Sha Sheng and the others had no major problems before, Granny Yu didn't kill them when she searched for Wen Shanlian, but until now, it was true. Take it easy. Since the matter here is over, you come with me, the Lord of the Palace wants to see you. Gao Shueding said, then led Yang Kai to the layman, and did not forget to say, the Immortal Travel Mirror is the biggest secret of the temple. As long as you know about it yourself, don't let it out to the outside world. Euro. Yes, Yang Kai replied seriously. Along the way, Gao Shueding remained silent, and only took Yang Kai to gallop towards the 10,000 Saints Peak. However, Yang Kai found that she hesitated to speak several times, as if she wanted to ask something, but in the end she didn't ask. Yang Kai felt that what she wanted to ask was probably about Tianyan. Even when Zishan wanted to see him the first time after he came out because of Tianyan. There is a great emperor in the mirror, which is simply too amazing. I am afraid that even when Zishan did not expect this. After a while, the two came to Wansheng Peak. Gao Shueding stopped outside the hall, and said to Yang Kai, go in by yourself, the hall master is inside. Yang Kai nodded slightly, and walked towards the main hall with ease. In the main hall, Wen Zishan was alone, with a dignified expression, sitting cross-legged. Seeing Yang Kai pushing the door and entering, he couldn't help but smile and said, Boy, you are finally back. Yang Kai took a few steps forward, clasped his fists and said, I have seen Palace Master Wen, I have something to do, and I have been delayed for a few days. Well, it's good to be back safely. Wen Zishan stretched out his hand and greeted Yang Kai. Come, drink a glass of spiritual wine to calm the shock. As he spoke, he waved his hand casually, and tables, chairs and jugs appeared in front of him. Yang Kai was stunned, but he didn't refuse. He strode forward and sat down in front of Wen Zishan. I have a lot of things to ask you. Wen Zishan filled a glass for himself, and poured another glass for Yang Kai, showing his informality, and said, if you think you can answer this seat, you can speak freely. If you feel that you can't say it, I won't force it, so just pretend that I didn't ask, okay? His attitude was very friendly. Yang Kai quickly said, thank you, Lord Wen, for your understanding. Yeah, Wen Zishan nodded and didn't speak anymore, as if he was thinking about what to ask. Yang Kai had already picked up the wine glass, took a sip by himself. Seeing that he had been silent for a long time, he smiled and said, Dianju Wen's wine is not comparable to Monkey God wine. Hearing this, Wen Zishan glanced at Yang Kai unexpectedly and said, have you seen Yuewen? Yang Kai nodded and said, I see, Senior Yuewen also told the kid some interesting things about you back then. Did the old boy tell you that I was drunk with several jars of monkey spirit wine? Wen Zishan said with a curled lip. Yang Kai laughed and said, exactly. Huh. Wen Zishan snorted coldly, if it wasn't for my being too drunk and talking nonsense, how could the old boy be willing to give me so much to drink? Everything is within my plan. Yang Kai was stunned when he heard the words, and he didn't know who was the winner in the battle of wits and courage between the two Emperor Senior Third layers who lived in two different worlds. Senior Yuewen still misses Yuewen very much. He said that after you visited hundreds of years ago, you never showed up again. It really chilled him. He has prepared a lot of monkey spirit wine, and he is waiting for Yuewen to come. €. Ha ha ha, Wen Zishan laughed loudly, he still has a bit of conscience. Well, I haven't gone in these years because I was afraid that the old woman would think too much, but she has been imprisoned by me. If you want to go, you can go, but you don't know if the monkey spirit wine from Yuewen is enough for you to drink. After he finished speaking, his expression suddenly became solemn, and he said in a deep voice, I heard from Xiao Shueting that outside the king's city, a great emperor suddenly appeared and took you away. Yes. Yang Kai nodded seriously. Are you sure that the other party is the great emperor? Wen Zishan's expression was extremely serious. Yang Kai pondered for a while, and said, the boy's cultivation base is low, although he can't judge the real state of the other party, but forgive me for saying something that offends Wen Dianju. No problem, that person is much stronger than you, Palace Master Wen. Wen Zishan's expression froze. Dianju Wen has entered the Immortal Mirror and knows Senior Yuewen, so he should know Zhou Dian. By the way, Granny Yu's soul and body are also at the third level of Emperor Senior. In comparison, that Senior is already beyond your level. Then it is undoubtedly the great emperor. Wen Zishan took a deep breath, his face full of disbelief, and said, it is unbelievable that the great emperor was born in that place. If rumors of this matter spread, I am afraid it will shake the entire star world. By the way, what is the name of this senior? He calls himself Tianyan, Yang Kai replied. Emperor Tianyan, Wen Zishan murmured, then looked at Yang Kai and said, why did Master Tianyan take you away? In this world, any great emperor is enough to be recognized and respected by the world, so even if Wen Zishan has never met Tianyan, he still respectfully calls him an adult. This is not only a tribute to the strong, but also a tribute to the way of heaven and martial arts. For the soul devourer, Yang Kai replied, he felt that there was no need to hide this matter. Of course, it was only limited to Wen Zishan, although this palace master Wen had a unique style of acting, and he was not upright on weekdays, but Yang Kai could feel it. This is a very reliable and upright senior at critical moments. If not, it would be impossible for him to take the initiative to reveal the information of the Immortal Journey Mirror to Yang Kai, and arrange for Yang Kai to enter the Immortal Journey Mirror to practice. Regarding the previous rewards of those star seals, Wen Zishan can let Yang Kai enter the treasury and take 3 things at will. Just because Wen Zishan can reveal the sect secret of Shenyu Jing to Yang Kai feels that there is no need to hide it from him. Soul-eating insect. Wen Zishan raised his brows, but soon, he seemed to remember something, and said, I heard from Yuewen before that in that part of the world, there was an explosion. The battle known as the Holy Chalk War seems to have originated from a group of holy insects. Could it be that? Well, the source is the soul-devouring insects. Senior Tianyan asked the boy to take the group of soul-devouring insects out of that world, so there was a slight delay for a few days. Soul-eating worms are the nemesis of the soul. Although I don't know what magic method you have to restrain it, or what that Lord Tianyan helped you, but even if you have the treasure of heaven and earth like the Wenshan lotus, you must not be careless. Wen Zishan exhorted solemnly. Hearing what he said, Yang Kai immediately understood that he should have talked with Granny Yu in detail, and also knew about Wenshan Lian. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Poke Motion GOL bar. A copyright A unknown currency. A copyright A diaresis A%, IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0. Get real benefits. Iron-blooded experience, pure cultivation of immortals, the most popular mobile game, MoTNG, NetEase's 2015 Immortal Cultivation mobile game's first masterpiece, the most popular cultivation of immortals, everything is born for cultivation of immortals. Chapter 2242 Refining Slave Insect Bracelet. The matter of the soul-devouring insect, the younger generation has its own discretion. Yang Kai said seriously. That's good. Wen Zishan looked at him and said, it seems that you don't look like a person who can mess around. If you need anything, just tell me. Thank you, Palace Master Wen. In the next 2 hours, Wen Zishan inquired in detail about the details of many things in the Immortal Travel Mirror world, and Yang Kai knew everything and didn't hide too much. 2 hours later, Yang Kai walked out of the hall. Gao Shueding seemed to be standing outside the whole time, and when she saw him coming out, she glanced at him and said indifferently, "The master of the hall said, do you need a secret room?" Yang Kai nodded and said, "Yes." Before coming out from Wen Zishan, Yang Kai did mention this request to him, because he was going to refine the slave worm bracelet, so he had to ask for a safe secret room. Naturally, Wen Zishan readily agreed to such trivial matters, saying bluntly that he could come out and find Gao Shueding. "Follow me," Gao Shueding said, turned around and flew out. Yang Kai followed closely behind. Half an hour later, Gao Shueding landed on a mountain peak that was neither high nor short. This peak was not considered a majestic horse in the entire Qingyang mountain range. It looked ordinary, but this mountain was obviously surrounded by some formation blessed, so the aura of heaven and earth is higher than other places. There are no traces of buildings between the peaks, and there are large areas of purple bamboo in the peaks, which are full of purple, and the environment is extremely elegant. Gao Shueding directly led Yang Kai to the front of a cave on the mountainside, and opened the restriction with a seal of both hands, saying, "This purple bamboo peak is where I live, and I usually live in a cave above. If you have anything to do, just open your mouth to call, I can come in a moment." Hearing what she said, Yang Kai suddenly felt flattered, cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, Elder Gao." Originally, he just wanted to ask Wen Zishan for a quiet and safe secret room, but he didn't want Gao Shueding to take him to the purple bamboo peak where he lived, and arrange him in the adjacent cave. This obviously meant to take care of him. Gao Shueding nodded lightly, threw a restraining token to Yang Kai, and said, "Go in by yourself." Yang Kai took the token, scanned it with his spiritual mind, thanked him again before rushing into the cave. Looking around, the cave is not too big or small, and there are several secret rooms that can be used. Although no one has lived in it for a long time, it is as clean as new. I think this cave should be the place where Gao Shueding lived before, and I don't know why it has been changed again. 1. There are experts like Gao Shueding sitting nearby, so Yang Kai is naturally very at ease, so he doesn't need to have any worries when refining the slave worm bracelet. Time was running out. Yang Kai did not dare to delay. He first familiarized himself with the prohibition token, and then opened all the restrictions in the entire cave, and then came to a secret room and sat down cross-legged to adjust his mind. Refining Emperor Treasure is not that simple. Because the Emperor Treasure is different from ordinary secret treasures, every piece of the Emperor Treasure is full of the Emperor's will and the Emperor's charm. If the cultivation level is not enough during refining, it is very likely that the Emperor Treasure will backfire. Therefore, warriors with insufficient cultivation must adjust their state to the best level when refining the Emperor Treasure. After 3 long days, Yang Kai felt that his energy had reached a peak state, so he took a slight breath, and took out the long-forgotten slave bracelet from a certain corner of the mysterious boundary orb. Ever since he got the slave worm bracelet, he hadn't studied it carefully, and never thought of refining it. It's just that this thing has worked wonders in the 2 times of distress. One time, Shueyu and Shueyu encountered a group of strange butterflies in the Lost Land, and the slave worm bracelet frightened them away. Deterring the mother body of the monster worm, Yang Kai will definitely not be able to subdue it. The 2 miraculous effects saved Yang Kai's life, and the slave worm bracelet contributed the most. Although his cultivation base is only at the first level of Daoyuan, but his spiritual consciousness has barely touched the emperor level, refining this slave worm bracelet should not be a problem. Thinking in this way, he put the palm-sized bracelet-shaped emperor treasure in his palm, clasped his palms together to cover it, his divine sense and source power were activated at the same time, and poured inward. There was no response, and the slave worm bracelet was like a piece of wood, not accepting any of his power. Yang Kai is not in a hurry, this is only expected. He released his power slowly, and kept hitting the slave worm bracelet, intending to open a gap in this emperor treasure and engrave his brand on it. Wansheng Peak, dozens of miles below, there is a dark underground secret room. At this time, in this secret room, Granny Yu looks crazy. Although her cultivation is imprisoned by invisible forces, she still yells and curses. Wen Zishan, you little bastard, you will die badly, even if you turn into a ghost, I will never let you go lightly. She seemed to have been cursing for a long time, and even her voice was extremely hoarse, which made her ugly voice even worse. A voice suddenly sounded in this pitch-black space. Mother-in-law, you've been cursing and swearing all the time. It's so boring, my ears are numb from hearing it. Granny Yu's scolding stopped suddenly for a moment, but soon, she yelled hysterically, Wen Zishan. Hee hee, Palace Master Wen smiled slightly, stretched out his hand and snapped his fingers. Suddenly there was some light in the space, and under the imprint of the dim light, Granny Yu had disheveled hair and looked like an evil ghost, looking extremely frightening. Wen Zishan turned a blind eye, but looked at Granny Yu kindly and said, "Grandma, you are tired of scolding, how about taking a rest? I brought you something to moisten your throat." While speaking, he actually took out a plate of delicious and fragrant spiritual fruit from his space ring, and with a little force on his wrist, the plate of spiritual fruit flew to Granny Yu. The latter glared at him viciously, his eyes filled with bloodshot eyes and endless hatred. She really needed to moisten her throat. After being silent for a while, Granny Yu stretched out her hand to pick up the spiritual fruit, and ate it in big mouthfuls. But in the process of eating, those vicious eyes never left Wen Zishan, and her mouth was chewing loudly. Looking at the posture, it seemed that what she ate was not the spiritual fruit, but the flesh and blood of Wen Zishan. In less than a quarter of an hour, Granny Yu ate up a plate of spiritual fruits. The little bastard didn't poison the fruit. Granny Yu wiped the corners of her mouth and looked at Wen Zishan sarcastically. With a hurt expression on his face, Palace Master Wen said aggrievedly, "Grandma, you and I have known each other for hundreds of years, why do you still speculate about me so maliciously?" "HMPH. It's because I've known you for hundreds of years that I can see through your heart, liver, spleen, lungs and kidneys," Granny Yu said coldly. Wen Zishan gave a wry smile. "It looks like, mother-in-law, you still have a lot of grudges against me." "Grudgery," Granny Yu sneered, "what you said is too simple, the old man has more than grudges against you. I really want to drink your blood, eat your flesh, and gnaw your bones." "I can see it." Wen Zishan looked helpless. "Don't talk so intrusively." Granny Yu suddenly changed the subject and said sarcastically, "How is young boy doing now?" Wen Zishan looked at her in amazement, and said, "Grandma, you can't protect yourself now, and you still have the heart to care for others. I didn't see that you have such kindness. Ask knowingly." Granny Yu's voice raised a lot, "I'm afraid that kid has already been killed by you." "Why should I kill him?" Wen Zishan pouted. "Of course it's for Wenshanlian." Granny Yu said, "If you can get Wenshanlian." "So what if I get Wenshanlian?" Now, Wen Zishan didn't wait for her to finish, and interrupted her directly, saying, "I am already at the 3rd level of Emperor Zun, and if I go up, I will be the great emperor. Realm, only relying on Wenshanlian is enough. Or do you think I should snatch his Wenshanlian and do the same thing as you?" Granny Yu stared at Wen Zishan coldly, and said, "It seems that you have talked with Boy Yang in detail, and you know what I want Wenshanlian to do." Wen Zishan nodded, and said bluntly, "Although I don't want to admit it, I have to say, mother-in-law, your idea is very good. The Wenshanlian is the most precious treasure in the world, and it is indeed enough to carry the mirror soul of the magic mirror. It is really possible to refine that side of the world." "Humph, but mother-in-law," Wen Zishan's expression suddenly became serious, and he said earnestly, "Have you ever thought about it, even if you get Wenshanlian, if Jinghan doesn't respond to you, how will you refine it? Why won't the mirror soul respond to me?" Granny Yu screamed, "I have guarded the Zhenwu mirror for 2000 years, and I know more about it than any of you. As long as I get the warming lotus, I will have full confidence in the mirror. The soul merges into it." "Are you sure?" Wen Zishan stared at her meaningfully, "Are you sure it's that simple?" He paused slightly, and his tone suddenly became sharp. "Or, mother-in-law, you are just deceiving yourself. Is this just your obsession to defeat me?" Granny Yu froze suddenly. Wen Zishan continued, "Mother-in-law, do you know why you were at the 1st level of Emperor Senior 2000 years ago, and you are still at the 1st level of Emperor Senior 2000 years later? What have you been doing for these 2000 years? What else do you see in your eyes?" Granny Yu's complexion gradually changed, and her eyes full of hatred and bloodshot eyes gradually became blank, empty, and then chaotic. Wen Zishan's words seemed to touch something deep in her heart. "You clearly know that even if you get Wenshanlian, you may not be able to subdue the mirror soul." Wen Zishan sighed slightly. "You fart," Granny Yu cursed. "Then let me ask you, if it is really possible to subdue the mirror soul so easily, why didn't the emperor who took young boy away do it? He should have this ability." As soon as this remark came out, Granny Yu was immediately surprised, speechless. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Poke Motion GOL bar. A copyright A unknown currency A copyright A diaresis A %, IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0. Get real benefits. Iron-blooded experience, pure cultivation of immortals, the most popular mobile game, MoTNG, NetEase's 2015 Immortal Cultivation mobile game's first masterpiece, the most popular cultivation of immortals, everything is born for cultivation of immortals. Chapter 2243 Strange Space. Let go, mother-in-law, if you don't let go, you will only stop here for the rest of your life. Wen Zishan said earnestly and kindly, we warriors can only forge ahead when we have a clear mind. In the defeat of the First World War, blinded by hatred, and single-mindedly trying to kill me, how can I climb to a higher level of martial arts? Boy, are you teaching me a lesson? Granny Yu glared at Wen Zishan. The latter shrugged his shoulders and said, just tell the truth, and you may not understand these truths, mother-in-law, but you just don't want to admit it. He sighed again, and said, Boy Yang and Xiao Shueding probably think that you are your real. The face of the peerless woman that appeared in the fugue mirror is just your illusion, but only you and I know. The appearance of you in the fugue mirror is your original appearance. And you at this moment are just a kind of it's all just pretending. Mother-in-law, you are also a woman, why bother to embarrass yourself like this? What are you talking about? Granny Yu's tone became much calmer for some reason. I just want to say, mother-in-law, your aptitude may not be inferior to mine. If you can untangle your hard knot, you may not be able to ascend to the position of emperor in the future. As soon as these words came out, Granny Yu was shocked. She looked at Wen Zishan sharply, and said in a low voice, what do you mean from your heart? Wen Zishan smiled and said, to be honest, I didn't say that. Who said that? It's said by an old man who is foolish and unrestrained. Wen Zishan seemed extremely reluctant to mention that person's name. Although he didn't say the person's name, Grandma Yu's eyes burst into ejaculation, as if she understood something. I can't support Qingyang Temple alone, would my mother-in-law help me? Wen Zishan looked at Granny Yu sincerely, asked. Granny Yu looked at him for a while, then suddenly burst out laughing, and sarcastically said, I killed many elite disciples of your Qingyang Temple, and you don't have any resentment towards me. The way of heaven is permanent, but fate is impermanent. If they can't cross that hurdle, it's because they haven't practiced enough. Wen Zishan said seriously. Granny Yu's complexion changed, and she became silent. After a while, she suddenly shouted, get out, get out. Wen Zishan smiled slightly and said, mother-in-law, please think carefully. The words fell. He gradually disappeared into this space, as if he had never appeared before. Granny Yu was left alone, her expression was cold and fluctuating. Time flies, since Yang Kai followed Gao Shueding to Zizhu Peak Cave Mansion. It's been a month. During this period of time, he has been unable to retreat, refining the slave worm bracelet. At the beginning, the slave worm bracelet did not respond. Yang Kai was not in a hurry, and kept using his own strength to attack the restriction of the slave worm bracelet. And with the passage of time, this emperor treasure has gradually undergone some changes. It slowly began to accept Yang Kai's divine sense and source power. This time refining, like peeling off the cocoon, Yang Kai took great pains. Only when all the hindering powers are leveled, Yang Kai will have the opportunity to refine the slave worm bracelet and engrave his own soul brand inside. Make him yours. On this day, Yang Kai continued his usual actions. But at a certain moment, there was a strange buzzing sound, and then there was a slight burst of air in the secret room, and at the same time, Yang Kai only felt a burst of fire in his hand, as if the slave bug bracelet was burned. Yang Kai saw this, not surprised but happy, knowing that this is a sign that the refining process is about to succeed. Immediately, he spared no effort to urge the power, and frantically poured it into the slave worm bracelet. The fiery feeling on that hand became more and more obvious, and the slave insect bracelet seemed to have reborn spirituality, bouncing continuously in Yang Kai's palm, trying to escape Yang Kai's control. But how could Yang Kai control it in his hands as it wished? Slowly, the fiery feeling changed, and Yang Kai's palm felt as if it was being eaten by thousands of ants, itching unbearably. That kind of crispy and numb feeling spread along the palm of his hand, all the way to the body, deep into the soul. Among them, he became extremely uncomfortable. The numbness gradually turned into pain, not only on the body, but also on the soul, as if it had been cut into countless pieces and smashed to pieces. Yang Kai couldn't help but roar. More surging divine sense and source power continued to pour in, and Yang Kai gritted his teeth, enduring the unimaginable torture. After 2 days like this, Yang Kai suddenly felt light all over, and all the abnormal sensations disappeared in this instant. At the same moment, the slaver's bracelet suddenly shone brightly, and on the surface of the small bracelet, runes the size of rice grains danced like fireflies, making the entire secret room look a little more beautiful. Those runes are extremely complex, just looking at them makes one feel miraculous and amazed, as if they have a life of their own, constantly disillusioned and reborn. The bland slave worm bracelet gradually became full of imperial charm, full of imperial spirit. Seeing this situation, Yang Kai not only did not have the slightest joy, but his complexion became dignified. In a short while, all those complicated runes were collected into the slave worm bracelet, and Yang Kai heard a crackling sound in the dark, as if something was broken, and then, his divine sense and source power drove straight into it, poured into the slave worm bracelet without obstruction. That sound from the soul was undoubtedly the sound of the last barrier of the slave worm bracelet being broken through. This also means that most of the refining has been completed. But, because the slave worm bracelet is not a newly born secret treasure, it has had an owner before, so the biggest test has also followed. Spiritual mind poured in, and Yang Kai quickly noticed that there was a pure force inside the slave insect bracelet to counterattack head-on. This power is not vast, but it is extremely pure. This is the imprint of soul and life left by the Emperor Zong in the slave worm bracelet. Only by completely smashing this brand, Yang Kai will have the opportunity to brand his mark. Zongdi's true cultivation is at least the third level of Emperor Zun. Unfortunately, tens of thousands of years ago, he fought with Yang Yan, and was defeated and killed, be reborn. But no longer the majesty of the past. After tens of thousands of years, the imprint in the slave's bracelet has long since weakened beyond recognition. If it wasn't for this reason, it would be impossible for Yang Kai to have the opportunity to refine the slave worm bracelet, unless he asked Wen Zishan to help get rid of this brand. But even though this brand is pure now, its strength can only barely reach the level of Emperor Senior Stage, which is basically equivalent to the strength of Yang Kai's spiritual consciousness. This brand counterattacked head-on, wanting to stop Yang Kai's next move. Yang Kai naturally couldn't back down. He was also happy and fearless, mobilizing the power of his consciousness, and went directly to meet him. Boom, a euro. A sound came, Yang Kai's body shook slightly, and the whole person was a little dizzy. This is a collision of spirit and soul, without any fancy. What is fighting is the tenacity and strength of spiritual consciousness. Under this collision, neither Yang Kai nor the original brand had the upper hand, so it was almost the same. Taking a short breath, Yang Kai mobilized his spiritual mind again and blasted towards the inside of the slave worm bracelet. There was another sound, and blood overflowed from Yang Kai's mouth and nose, and his whole face was slightly pale. However, after this collision, Yang Kai's divine sense clearly had the upper hand, and the Zong Emperor's brand had already been weakened by more than half. Yang Kai didn't stop, and mobilized his spiritual mind for the third time in one go. Boom, a euro. On the slave worm bracelet, the brilliance flashed, as if something had been broken. Where Yang Kai's spiritual sense passed, it was also extremely smooth, without any hindrance. So far, the brand of Zongdi was completely destroyed. Yang Kai poured his spiritual thoughts into it, endured the discomfort in his body, struck while the iron was hot, and carved his own soul brand in the slave worm bracelet. After doing this, he grinned and fell to the ground with his head tilted, not wanting to move anymore. Now the slave worm bracelet is already regarded as his emperor treasure, but what is the magical function of this slave worm bracelet, but it still needs to be tested and developed slowly in the future. The silent battle consumed a lot of Yang Kai's mental and physical strength, and thanks to his warming god Lotus, otherwise he would never have dared to use such a violent and direct method to erase the brand of the Zong Emperor. However, under the nourishment of Wen Shenlian, he didn't worry about any fundamental damage to his soul. He had the capital to mess around. After resting for half a day, Yang Kai felt a little better before sitting up again, putting the slave insect bracelet in front of his eyes and looking at it carefully. After refining, the slave worm bracelet has not changed much, but now it is sent and received freely. His spiritual thoughts surged and he poured them into the slave worm bracelet, thinking about how mysterious this secret treasure is, and how to use it to restrain the soul-devouring worm. A scene that surprised him appeared. As soon as his spiritual thoughts were poured into the slave worm bracelet, he discovered that there was a strange space inside the bracelet. This space is not like the inner space of the mysterious boundary bead. It cannot be freely entered and exited by people. It is quite similar to the space inside the space ring, but there are some subtle differences. Because Yang Kai can feel that there seems to be some strange energy surging in this space, This energy is neither beneficial nor harmful to the soul, I don't know what it is for. Yang Kai's eyes were quickly attracted by the wine urns of different sizes and shapes in this space. These wine urns, some as tall as a person, some as high as a foot, are neatly arranged on the side, and they don't know what's inside. Out of curiosity, Yang Kai swept his spiritual mind to check it out. But soon, his complexion changed drastically, his spiritual sense retreated in shock, and he quickly moved away from those wine jars. Because he noticed that among those wine jars, many were filled with something, and only a few were empty. He didn't know what those things were, but he heard a strange noise coming from the wine jar. There were some squirming movements, some buzzing sounds, and some remained silent. But everything in the wine urn gave Yang Kai an extremely dangerous feeling. Even though he is now the owner of the slave worm bracelet, he doesn't dare to open the wine urn easily to see what's inside. While he was restless, he suddenly discovered that there were handwritings emerging on the surface of each wine urn, and he quickly fixed his eyes on it. To be continued. Chapter 2244 Strange Insect Sutra. Blood Aphids, Bipedal Silkworms, Steel Ants, Silver-Striped Hexagonal Spiders, King Bees. On each wine urn, there is a name of a strange insect. These names Yang Kai has almost never heard of, only a few one or two he has heard of. And the only few one or two kinds of existences are all terrifying things that make warriors turn scared when they hear the news. Yang Kai was shocked, and faintly made some bold guesses. But at this moment, in the inner space of the slave worm bracelet, a ray of light suddenly flashed, and in that radiance, a book-like thing slowly appeared in Yang Kai's spiritual mind. Out of curiosity, Yang Kai drove his spiritual mind to investigate. I saw that on the front of the classic, there were a few large characters written in seal script, the Sutra of Strange Insects. Book of Divine Consciousness, Yang Kai exclaimed inwardly. There are some extremely brilliant skills and secret techniques in this world that do not exist in physical form, but are recorded in some hidden places in a way that cannot be observed by the naked eye. Recording in this way can prevent some precious information from being easily obtained, and it is also a method used by many powerful people before the deadline. The Book of Divine Consciousness is one of them. The Book of Divine Consciousness in the slave worm bracelet was probably written by the Worm Emperor, because Yang Kai sensed the Worm Emperor's aura from the strange worm scripture. Even though it has been many years, Yang Kai can still remember the special breath fluctuates. Yang Kai moved his spiritual mind again, opened the strange insect scripture, and read it carefully. This strange insect sutra is indeed written by the Emperor Chong, because on the first page of this book, there is a preface written by the Emperor Chong in the first person. Yang Kai was not interested in this, he glanced at it and turned to the next page. Strange bug list. The three big characters were immediately printed in Yang Kai's eyes, causing him to look up and observe carefully. This list of strange insects was divided into two lists by the Emperor Chong, and all the strange insects that can make it to this list are all extremely rare and difficult things in the world. 36 in the sky list and 72 in the earth list, a total of 108 species of strange insects and insects were collected, each with a detailed introduction and ranking. Yang Kai quickly found the description of the strange insects in the wine urns on this list. Blood aphid, the 13th on the earth list. It will move when it smells blood, it is thin and intangible, it is extremely difficult to detect, the blood will be sucked out of the whole body of the victim, and it will be reduced to a mummified corpse. Two-legged silkworm, the 27th in the list. The whole body is snow white, standing on 2 feet, the ice poison is the most poisonous in the world, and there is no solution to it. Iron ant, 36 in the land list, lives in groups, devours iron and steel, and conquers the world's secret treasures. Silver-striped hexagonal spider, 19th in the list, with silver-striped back body, extremely poisonous, even the powerful emperor can't stop it. Overlord bee, 21 in the Tianbang list, the poison of the tail needle is the most poisonous, one of the top 10 poisons in the world, and has been extinct. 0 and 0 total, and so on. Yang Kai saw the explanation and introduction of the soul eater in that day's list. Soul-eating insects, 11th in the list, dedicated to devouring the power of the soul. It is the nemesis of the soul. When it is weak, the fire of the consciousness can kill it, and the super divine sense can suppress it, but if it grows, it is extremely difficult to deal with the emperor's realm, nor can it be surrendered. In this list of strange insects, Soul Eater is impressively ranked 11th on the list, which is considered to be an extremely high existence. Yang Kai had never even heard of the 10 strange insects before the Soul Eater. According to the notes of the Emperor Zong, the 10 most powerful strange bugs have all been extinct and do not exist in the world. Of course, this is only his personal opinion. No one knows whether it is really extinct. And Yang Kai faintly felt that the reason why the Soul Eater could rank this high should be related to its huge growth. Just like the commentary of the Emperor Chong, the Soul Eater is not difficult to deal with when it is very weak. The fire of divine consciousness can be extinguished, and the powerful divine sense can suppress it, but if it grows up, it is a big trouble. The Holy Chalk War in Shenyu World is the best illustration. Suddenly getting such a strange book, Yang Kai couldn't help but feel interested, flipping through it with relish. Since the Emperor Chong dared to use Chong as his name, it means that his research in the field of strange insects is almost unmatched by anyone. His knowledge is probably unique in the entire star world, and Yang Kai will master it. In the future, if you encounter any strange insects on the world rankings, you won't be helpless. In the Sutra of Strange Insects, after the Day and Earth list, it introduces in detail the living habits, feeding methods, and methods of restraint of each species of strange insects. Most of the strange insects have methods for restraint. For example, the blood aphid on the 13th place list, although it moves when it smells blood, it is extremely small and cannot be detected by the naked eye, and even the divine sense may not be able to detect it. But they are most afraid of fire, and any fire-type secret arts and supernatural powers are enough to make them shy away. Another example is the 36th steel ants on the Earth list. Although they are the nemesis of the secret treasures of heaven and earth, they are afraid of a strange stone called the moonstone. If the steel ants swallow this moonstone, they will die within a while. It will turn into thick water and die completely. The key point is that this yuewen stone is not considered precious, it is just a kind of strange insect for lighting, and it has no great use value in itself. Looking at the entire star world, it is produced in many places. Yang Kai deliberately searched for a restraint method for the Soul Eater. The Zongdi only provided two methods, one is to kill them with the fire of consciousness when they are weak, and the second is to suppress them, because once they grow to the point where they are not afraid of the fire of consciousness, basically, it is impossible to kill, and there is no other way except suppression. After some reading, Yang Kai gained a lot, and he also had some ideas on how to deal with the soul-eating worms he had. Half a day later, Yang Kai closed the strange insect scripture. Just like when it first appeared, there was no sign when it disappeared, and with a flash of brilliance, it was no longer in this space. But Yang Kai is now the owner of the slave insect bracelet, and he has figured it out. If he wants to read the strange insect sutra in the future, he can call it out at any time. Immediately, Yang Kai withdrew his divine sense and immersed himself in his mind. While releasing the power of the slave worm bracelet, he controlled his mind to pull the soul-eating worms in the warming god lotus, intending to transfer them into the slave worm bracelet. The batch of soul-eating worms he originally owned was not too much trouble. Although in the world of wandering, these soul-eating worms showed a rebellious side, but under the suppression of the breath of the slave worm bracelet, at this moment they are obedient again obedient. Yang Kai was easily transferred into the space of the slave worm bracelet. It was the soul-devouring insects that were sealed, which made Yang Kai cautious. Although the sealed light group has the double insurance of the power of the great emperor and the mighty power of the gods and mirrors, Yang Kai still dare not take it lightly. It took a lot of effort to safely transfer them to the world of the slave worm bracelet. Until this moment, he couldn't help exhaling a breath. There are no soul-eating worms in his body now, so naturally he doesn't have to worry about anything. The two batches of soul-devouring insects were transferred in by Yang Kai and placed in an idle wine urn. These wine vats were made by the Emperor Zong using some extremely precious materials back then, and they were specially used to raise strange insects and insects in captivity. The dangerous aura that Yang Kai sensed from these vessels were all the strange insects left by the Emperor Chong. Although tens of thousands of years have passed, in the special environment of the slave worm bracelet, under the nourishment of that special power, these strange insects have not only not weakened but have become stronger than before. Yang Kai didn't dare to release them at all. These strange insects were not cultivated by himself, and Yang Kai was not sure that he could enslave them. If he released them and refused to obey orders, he would shoot himself in the foot. He can only wait for his own strength to improve in the future, and then try gradually. The most important thing right now is to deal with the Soul Eater first. Two groups of soul-devouring insects were placed in a wine urn. Yang Kai sealed the wine urn, and only then did he use his divine sense to make a formula with both hands, using a secret method to unlock Tianyan's seal. The next moment, a buzzing sound came from the wine jar. Yang Kai listened for a moment, his complexion turned slightly pale. He clearly felt that the two groups of soul-eating worms were like two armies at the moment, launching an earth-shattering fight in the wine vat. However, because the difference in strength between them is not very big, this fight is particularly fierce and bloody. Inside the wine jar, there seems to be a bloody storm, with swords and swords shadowing. But Yang Kai is not worried about anything. It is also stated in the Strange Insect Sutra that this is a way and means for the soul-eating insects to survive and evolve. Although they have no thinking, they have their own instincts. Just like the GU art, GU refiners will place some poisons in a space, let them fight each other, and the one that survives at the end will be the most powerful GU. The same is true for the evolutionary growth of soul-eating worms, and this is driven by their instinct, which cannot be restrained by any means. However, this evolutionary process can be stimulated by external objects. Thinking of this, Yang Kai withdrew from the slave insect bracelet with spiritual mind, and with a flick of the token in his hand, he opened the restriction of the cave and flew out. After a while, he came to the top of Zizhu Peak, looked left and right, and soon found Gao Shueting's cave. Yukong flew over there. Yang Kai was standing outside the cave, and when he was about to shout, Gao Shueting's voice suddenly came from inside, "Come in." Yang Kai was stunned, but there was a touch of emotion on his face. Gao Shueting was able to detect his presence so quickly. One is because of her strong cultivation base, and the other is probably because she has been paying attention to her movements during this time. This is not surveillance, but protection. She probably also heard some news from Wen Zishan, so during the days of her retreat, she has not let go of anything. Yang Kai didn't speak anymore, and flew straight into the cave. Going around in the cave, Yang Kai quickly came to a stone room. This should be where Gao Shueting lives and rests. Looking around, Yang Kai was surprised to find that the cave was extremely simple, with almost no decorations, only a futon, a bamboo bed, and nothing else. Gao Shueting was sitting on the bamboo bed at the moment, looking at him lightly. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Give benefits to cultivators. Poke motion GOL. A copyright A unknown currency A copyright A diaresis A%, IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0 to receive your benefits. For the first time, the mobile game, MoTNG, truly interprets the fighting method of immortals and demons, the first magic weapon hedging battle, and the innovative 3-line confrontation gameplay. Unique battle, new enough and exciting, you must not miss it. Chapter 2245. Elder Gao. Yang Kai clasped his fists in salute. Gao Shueting nodded lightly, and said with concern, "Is this retreat going well?" Yang Kai Dao. "Thanks to Elder Hong Fu, there is no accident." What kind of flattery? Gao Shueting glared at him. "Shut up, it has nothing to do with me." Yang Kai patted the horse's leg, but Gao Shueting didn't expect Gao Shueting to be so outspoken. She couldn't help but look embarrassed. "Tell me, what's the matter with me?" Gao Shueting returned to the indifferent look just now. "Oh, it's like this." Speaking of business, Yang Kai quickly became serious, and said, "I want to ask Elder Gao, is there any faceless profound grass in Qingyang Temple?" Faceless profound grass? Gao Shueting frowned when she heard this. It's a Daoyuan level middle grade spirit grass, not a rare thing. Yang Kai himself is an alchemist, so he knows everything about spirit flowers and herbs. "What do you want this for?" Gao Shueting asked curiously. "Alchemy," Yang Kai said insincerely. His eyes turned to other places, and said, "Elder Gao, you also know that I am an alchemist, and the spirit grass is of course for alchemy." The corner of Gao Shueting's mouth raised slightly, as if revealing an imperceptible smile, but she didn't ask any more about Yang Kai's practice of not having 300 taels of silver here, but took out her communication compass, and poured her spiritual thoughts into it. He said indifferently, "Let me ask you, since this spiritual grass is not a rare item, there should be stock in the warehouse." "Thank you, Elder Gao." Yang Kai quickly thanked him. There was a long period of silence. Yang Kai stayed in this cave. He just felt like a thorn on his back and felt uncomfortable. He wanted to find something to talk to Gao Shueting, but he was afraid that she would dislike him for making noise, so he could only keep silent. Gao Shueting didn't intend to talk to him anymore. She just closed her eyes and meditated, as if he didn't exist, without being disturbed at all. After a while, the communication compass in Gao Shueting's hand suddenly buzzed. She opened her beautiful eyes, and after searching, she looked at Yang Kai and said, "There are indeed faceless profound grass, and there are quite a few of them. How much do you want?" "The more the better." Yang Kai looked upright. It seems, you have to refine a lot of pills. Gao Shueding snorted softly. Yang Kai laughed dryly. What do you give in exchange? Ah, Yang Kai was stunned upon hearing this. Gao Shueding said, faceless Xuansao can't be given to you for nothing, can it? It's something from the temple, what do you give in exchange? Elder Gao is doing business with me. Yang Kai was startled, he never expected Gao Shueding to have such a side. Take it as it is. Gao Shueding nodded, look at what you mean, do you want to take it for nothing? Yang Kai hurriedly said, how is it possible? I just wanted to buy it. He paused and asked timidly, is the source crystal successful? There is no shortage of source crystal temples. Gao Shueding replied expressionlessly. Yang Kai was speechless, and said, since it's for business, why don't you use source crystal? HMPH. Gao Shueding sneered, looked at him meaningfully, and said, forget it, I'll ask junior sister Chen how much this thing costs. There is work, there is work. Yang Kai hurriedly wiped the sweat from his forehead. Inexplicably, when he was with Gao Shueding, he was under a lot of pressure. This had never happened even when he was with Wen Zishan, and he didn't know why. After a while, Gao Shueding raised her head again, looked at Yang Kai and said, junior sister Chen said, faceless profound grass, 1000 source crystals per plant. The price is reasonable. Yang Kai immediately beamed with joy. Top grade. Gao Shueding added. Yang Kai was stunned for a while, then jumped up and said in surprise, are you robbing? Gao Shueding said indifferently, junior sister Chen is in charge of the warehouse of the temple, and everything in the warehouse is up to her. She said it was 1000 high-grade source crystals, so it is 1000 high-grade source crystals. After finishing speaking, she said again, what? Are you poor? That's not true. Yang Kai's forehead was covered with cold sweat, and his face was very bright, it's just that the price is not right. Elder Gao, have you made it clear to Elder Chen that the formless profound grass is the way the source level middle grade spirit grass, and it is not a rare spirit grass? If you are a big sect, you can cultivate it yourself, so why do you need so many source crystals? Who do you think I am? Is it your microphone? If you want to ask, you can ask yourself. Gao Shueding's already indifferent face became even colder. Yang Kai didn't know what kind of anger she was getting, and suddenly his face turned awkward, and he didn't know how to respond. However, Gao Shueding suddenly changed the subject, her beautiful eyes kept turning on Yang Kai's body, and Yang Kai looked cold for a while, wondering if this elder Gao looked cold on the surface but was actually passionate in his heart. Together with this thought, he was startled, and he felt uncomfortable. Junior sister Chen said that if you don't have the financial resources to buy it, you can, well, pay for it, this is what junior sister Chen said. Gudong. Yang Kai couldn't help swallowing, cold sweat rolling down his cheeks. Don't get me wrong, Gao Shueding explained, junior sister Chen means that if you are allowed to join the temple and become a disciple of the temple, you can enjoy great discounts. You can refine as many pills as you want. Become a temple disciple. Yang Kai looked at her in astonishment. I don't want to. Gao Shueding looked over coldly, and her voice became colder, don't you look down on the temple? No, absolutely nothing. Yang Kai kept waving his hands, it's just. Qingyang Temple is a big sect, so it's okay to accept people so hastily. Gao Shueding snorted softly, if you want to join the temple, you have to go through various inspections and tests. To put it bluntly, the temple only recruits disciples once every 10 years, and at least hundreds of thousands of people come to the Qingyang Mountains to participate in the trials. But there are only 300 people who can really enter the temple to become disciples. Even among these 300 people, only half can become real disciples, and the remaining half can only be listed as disciples in the outer mountains after various tests. Identity, you will never be able to enter the inner door. But if it is you. At this point, Gao Shueding squinted at Yang Kai, I may not have to do something special to open a convenient door for you. She gave Yang Kai a huge discount, as if Yang Kai lost something if he refused. Hee. Yang Kai laughed dryly, then I can thank Elder Gao and Elder Chen for their kindness. How do you choose? Gao Shueding asked Yang Kai without giving him time to think. Yang Kai coughed a few times, realizing the seriousness of this problem, he appeared to be normal, but his mind was changing rapidly. Soon, he opened his mouth and said, so that Elder Gao knows that this junior has been used to being alone all these years, and has never joined any sect. Then what's the situation with Beiyuzong? Gao Shueding interrupted him directly. Yang Kai widened his eyes and looked at Gao Shueding. Master Gao, are you secretly investigating me? Gao Shueding said indifferently, it's just a random search. Your information is not difficult to find. My temple family has a great career. Isn't it easy to investigate a lot of people? The corner of Yang Kai's mouth twitched and said, how much does Elder Gao know about this kid? Gao Shueding said, except that I don't know the color of your underwear, everyone else in this palace knows. Including, you are not a native of the Star Realm. Yang Kai sweated profusely, wiped his forehead and said, Elder Gao is really well informed. He scolded that bitch Bian Yuqing in his heart. As expected, Gao Shueding's information was definitely obtained from Bian Yuqing. Bian Yuqing is just a Daoyuan third-layer warrior. If Gao Shueding really wanted to find out something from her, Bian Yuqing would definitely not be able to lie and hide it. It's just that Yang Kai didn't know when Gao Shueding did this. Since Elder Gao knows about the Jade Feather sect, he must also understand why the kid joined the Jade Feather sect, and he also knows what happened next. Seeing that he couldn't hide anything, Yang Kai could only tell the truth. Gao Shueding nodded. During those few months in Jade Feather sect, I was very unhappy. Yang Kai said seriously. Oh, don't worry about this. The temple is different from the small sects of the Bu sect. It will definitely make you feel at home. If you want, I can personally accept you as a disciple and teach you how to practice. €1. Hearing this, Yang Kai's expression lifted, and he stared at Gao Shueding in surprise. She even said these words, which means that Gao Shueding sincerely wants to win her to join Qingyang Temple. But from another point of view, I do have this capital. He is not very young and his cultivation is not bad, so he is the target of all sects vying for it, not to mention that he is still a Daoyuan level alchemist, and a martial artist from the lower plane star field. He is full of energy, the foundation is solid, and I have taken another time Yao Dan. For various reasons, as long as I don't have any major accidents, it is only a matter of time before I am promoted to the throne and become a strong emperor. Qingyang Temple also didn't want to miss a future emperor senior realm, and Gao Shueding's own conditions were enough for Gao Shueding to try. Of course, considering Gao Shueding's indifferent personality, she would not have said that if she had not been instigated by others. Who else could be the one behind the instigation besides Wen Zishan? Soon, Yang Kai figured everything out, and his heart moved slightly. To be honest, although Gao Shueding's wooing is not very clever, it is very sincere, and during this time, Yang Kai also felt the care and concern of the seniors in Qingyang Temple, and got along well with Sha Sheng and others. If you really join Qingyang Temple and become one of them, it doesn't look like a bad thing. Joining the sect has its own advantages, especially for such a powerful force as the Qingyang Temple, who will go out in the future with the name of the disciple of the temple. I am afraid that not many people would dare to provoke it. However, Yang Kai also has concerns in his heart. His biggest concern is the magic thought sealed in his body. When he was eroded by evil thoughts and became a demon that day, he had fought against Gao Shueding, and he really joined the temple. If someone accidentally showed his feet, he didn't know how Gao Shueding would deal with him. The evil thoughts of the ancient great demon cannot be ignored casually. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Give benefits to cultivators. Poke motion GOL. A copyright A unknown currency A copyright A diaresis A%, IE equals UTF-8 and TP equals 0 to receive your benefits. For the first time, the mobile game, MoTNG, truly interprets the fighting method of immortals and demons, the first magic weapon hedging battle, and the innovative 3-line confrontation gameplay. Unique battle, new enough and exciting, you must not miss it. Chapter 2246 Sky-Shattering Strike. For a while, Yang Kai was also a little undecided. He didn't know whether to take the opportunity to join the Qingyang Temple, and enjoy the shade under the big tree, or continue to be alone and free. Go back and think carefully for a few days, and give me an answer when you figure it out. Gao Shueding seemed to see his embarrassment, and no longer forced him, but took a step back. Yang Kai breathed a sigh of relief immediately, and said, "Thank you, Elder Gao, for the matter about the faceless profound grass. The price remains the same, let's keep the account first. I have sent you 1,000 plants." Gao Shueding said calmly, "When did you become a disciple of the temple, and when will the account be settled?" Okay, well, Yang Kai's mouth twitched, thinking that Qingyang Temple really valued him, and he wanted to use this method to tie him down. Another long silence followed. At a certain moment, Gao Shueding opened her beautiful eyes again, and said, Go out, the person who sent the Wushang Xuansao is already outside, you can tell him yourself. Thank you, Elder Gao. After Yang Kai thanked him, he turned and exited. When he came outside the cave, Yang Kai saw a middle-aged man waiting outside. This man seems to be about 40 years old, but his cultivation is only at the first level of Daoyuan. It might be good to put this level of cultivation elsewhere. For example, in Fenggalan City, the ancestors of the major families are only at this level. But in this Qingyang temple, it is quite unsatisfactory, obviously because of the lack of qualifications. Yang Kai came out of Fenggalan City this trip, and saw too many rising stars, young and handsome, and his vision and experience were much broader than before. When the middle-aged man saw Yang Kai walking out of Gao Shueting's cave, he immediately smiled and clasped his fists in the distance. Under the order of Elder Chen, I have sent you 1,000 plants of faceless profound grass. I wonder if you are Yang Kai or Brother Yang. €. Exactly. Yang Kai nodded. The man's eyes lit up, and he couldn't stop praising him. I've heard about Brother Yang's name for a long time, but seeing him today, he really deserves his reputation. What? I'm very famous in Qingyang Temple. Yang Kai touched his nose. The middle-aged man said with a smile, Brother Yang has been practicing in seclusion these days, so he has never heard of any outside news. Brother Yang's name is not only widely rumored in the Qingyang Temple, but it may have spread throughout the southern region. €. Is there such a thing? Yang Kai's face suddenly sank, and he suddenly felt something bad in his heart. The other party didn't realize that Yang Kai was strange at all, and continued to pat the horse and said, Brother Yang, in the land of the 4 seasons, refined the great wonderful treasure pill, and shook the impermanence of the heavenly martial holy land. This matter has already shocked the world. Brother Yang is now considered a big famous people. As he was talking, he realized that Yang Kai's complexion was not very good looking. He suddenly realized the problem, smiled awkwardly, stopped flattering, and coughed dryly. Brother Yang, this is the faceless profound grass that Elder Chen asked me to send. Do you want to check it out? No need. Yang Kai stretched out his hand to take the space ring handed over by the other party, and thanked the other party with fists together, then turned and left. Although Yang Kai had expected the things that happened in the land of 4 seasons, and felt that some of his secrets could no longer be concealed, but the news spread so fast and spread so widely, he never thought of it. If this is the case, he still has to seriously consider Gao Shueting's proposal, whether he wants to join the Qingyang Temple. With the umbrella of disciples of the Qingyang Temple, it will definitely save a lot of trouble in the future, otherwise, if he walks in the astral world in the future, he might be coveted by others. Those warriors in the land of 4 seasons must know that the great wonderful pill is gone, but the great wonderful pill is very involved. Maybe there are some guys who don't believe in evil, and want to come to Yang Kai to ask for the great wonderful pill or something. €. The more he thought about it, the more irritable he felt, and after returning to the cave on the mountainside of Zizhu Peak, his mood gradually stabilized. It's useless to be irritated now. If this happens, it will be someone else's mediocrity, and it has nothing to do with him. Furthermore, he is not easy to mess with. Although his physical cultivation has not improved after some experience in the immortal mirror world, his spiritual sense has improved a lot. It is really not easy for ordinary warriors to deal with him. Unless there is an Emperor Senior realm shot. But even if he was at the first level of Emperor Senior, wouldn't he be able to escape if he couldn't beat it? Thinking of this, his mind suddenly brightened, a sense of arrogance emerged spontaneously, his whole body was filled with indescribable confidence, and he was inexplicably relieved. After sitting cross-legged, he took out the slave worm bracelet, put the 1,000 plants of faceless profound grass into the bracelet, and stuffed it into the wine jar where the soul-devouring worm was. According to the strange insects, the Wushang Xuansao is the best medicinal material to promote the evolution of the soul-eating worms, because the medicinal energy of the Wushang Xuansao has a great stimulating effect on the soul-eating worms, and the medicinal effect of this spirit grass can also help the growth of the soul-eater. All of a sudden, there were bursts of crazy movements coming from the wine urn, like the sound of golden spears and iron horses. Yang Kai listened for a while, then ignored it. He has been unable to intervene in the evolution of the Soul Eater, and only time will tell what the final result will be. He withdrew his divine sense, took out another object, put it in his hand and looked at it carefully. This is obviously another Emperor's treasure of the Emperor Chong, the Soul Slayer knife. Before he entered the world of the Immortal Travel Mirror, he never thought that the soul-slashing knife was actually a divine soul Emperor treasure. If he hadn't brought it into the divine travel mirror, Yongkai might not be able to discover it until a long time later. If it's just a general emperor treasure, Yongkai hasn't thought about refining it yet. He has a lot of means to deal with the enemy now, not to mention the various space magic powers he has comprehended. Debao alone already has the Nirvana Thunder Bead and the Million Sword in his hands. When you arrive in Fenggalan City, you still have to return it to the Qin family. However, being too greedy is not enough. Yongkai didn't refine the Soul Slayer knife before. One was because of this concern, and the other was because of lack of strength. But if it is the Divine Soul Emperor treasure, it is different. Yongkai has the need to refine it. So he made up his mind a long time ago, and after dealing with the matter of the Soul Eater, he began to refine the Soul Slayer knife. He originally thought that it would take a lot of effort and energy to refine such an emperor's treasure. After all, it took him a full month to refine something like the slave worm bracelet, not to mention the killing power of the master soul knife. But in fact, refining the soul-slashing knife is even easier than refining the slave worm bracelet. In less than half a month, Yongkai had already broken the restriction of the Soul Slayer knife, erased the mark of the Zong Emperor, and left his own soul mark inside. After thinking about it, he felt that there were probably two reasons for this situation. One was that his divine sense was strong enough to shorten the refining time, and the other was that in the world of the immortal traveling mirror, it had once been in contact with his divine soul. Body fusion, and fighting against the enemy together, this experience strengthened the mind and mind connection between him and Zanhundao, so it only took half a month to refine it successfully. However, like all secret treasures, after successful refining, it may not be able to exert its full power. It must be a gradual process to exert all the power of the secret treasure. Yongkai placed the soul-slashing knife in the sea of a consciousness, revealing his soul and spirit body, and he did not hesitate to expend a huge amount of mental and spiritual power to sacrifice it with secret methods. He learned this secret technique from Tian Yan. In the last 2 days of Immortal Wandering World, Yongkai consulted a lot of things with Tian Yan, the senior. He is a great emperor after all, even though he doesn't have a physical body, but since he has reached this level, wouldn't it be so simple to give Yongkai advice? Tian Yan was not stingy with the experience of cultivating the soul, the secret method, and taught Yongkai a lot of knowledge that would benefit him for a lifetime. But in terms of secret techniques, Yongkai only learned one from Tian Yan. Tian Yan said that secret arts are expensive and not expensive. If they are used well, even just one can be invincible in the world. If they are not used well, no matter how much they learn, it is useless. There are 3,000 roads, different routes lead to the same goal, and the same principle applies to martial arts and skills. So he only taught Yongkai a secret technique. The name of this secret technique is Sky-Shattering Strike. On weekdays, use a special method to refine the weapons for warming and nourishing yourself. When it is useful, the first blow of the move will explode all the power accumulated during the usual warming and nourishing, and it can often play a decisive role in one blow. Kill, the final result. Tianyan doesn't have a soul treasure, so what he uses this secret technique to nurture is the weapon he condensed with the power of his soul. Moreover, this happened tens of thousands of years ago, and it was a secret technique that he had comprehended by himself when he was in Emperor Senior realm. Today's Tianyan no longer needs this kind of secret technique. He is the great emperor himself, he controls the rules of the world, and no one in the world is his opponent. What else does he need secret technique for? It happened to be used to teach Yongkai. Although the heaven-shattering strike is only the first strike of the Divine Soul secret treasure, it will have a miraculous effect, and the subsequent attacks can only display the original power of the secret treasure, but the soul-slashing knife itself is an emperor treasure, even if Yongkai can't take all of it if the power is displayed, with his current strength, if he really forces out this treasure, not many people will be able to take it. Coupled with the secret technique of breaking the sky, under one blow, the Emperor Senior realm would probably have to retreat. This is another life-saving and desperate trump card. Yongkai naturally spared no effort to practice it. In the sea of a consciousness, Yongkai's soul and spirit body were revealed, and his hands were constantly clenching. The sea water in the sea of a consciousness rolled over and gathered into waves, rushing towards the Soul Slayer knife again and again. Every time it flushes, along with the change of Yongkai's technique, the soul-slashing knife seems to have a slight flash of brilliance. Faintly, its power has increased, although it is almost imperceptible, but if things go on like this, the power will definitely make people amazed. The first blow of the sword will definitely be able to shake the sky. And from time to time, Yang Kai also opened his mouth to spit out the pure soul qi, blowing it towards the soul-slashing knife, washing its power. Days passed, and Yang Kai stayed in Zizhu Peak's cave, using the secret technique of heaven-shattering strike to refine the Soul Slayer knife. But he also took the time to go to Shaoxuanji to have a look at Hua Qingxi and Zhang Ruoxi. Since he gave the last great wonderful pill to Hua Qingxi last time, this woman has taken it unceremoniously, and her attitude towards Yang Kai has changed 180 degrees, although she is not obedient to her words, but there is no repulsion in the past, and when getting along with Yang Kai, he is more gentle and submissive. Chapter 2247 Full of Tears. The power of law in mysterious Shaoji is not perfect enough. Although mysterious Shaoji absorbed a lot of fragments of laws on the third floor of the five-color pagoda, the law of heaven and earth inside it still lacks something, which is not comparable to that of the star realm itself, the power of the law. For a strong person like Hua Qingxi, there is no major problem in cultivating in mysterious Shaoji on weekdays. But if she wants to advance to breakthrough, it is not suitable in mysterious Shaoji, because the laws are not perfect, and the way of heaven and martial arts that she can understand when she realizes the breakthrough cannot meet the requirements. But when that time comes, Yang Kai will definitely release her, find a safe and secure place, and let her break through with peace of mind. At that time, Yang Kai will have a thug at the Emperor senior level. It's exciting just thinking about it. Zhang Ruoxi has made rapid progress these days, and now her cultivation has reached the second level of returning to the void. All the favored children of the sky, every genius of the sky, compared with her in terms of cultivation speed, it is like a firefly competing with a bright moon. Something in Zhang Ruoxi's body seems to be gradually awakening, and with the awakening of this power, her cultivation speed is getting faster and faster, and her whole temperament has gradually changed, and she has lost a lot of cowardice and timidity, more self-confidence and strength. This is what Yang Kai likes to hear. About 2 months after returning from the Immortal traveling mirror world, on this day, Yang Kai was using a sky-shattering strike to refine the Soul Slayer knife in the cave, when he suddenly noticed that the cave's restrictions were slightly touched. As soon as his mind moved, he immediately stopped casting spells, his soul and spirit body escaped from his mind, returned to his physical body, raised the token and shook it, releasing the restriction. Immediately a voice came from outside, "Young Master Yang. Young Master Yang." The voice sounded familiar. Yang Kai thought for a moment, and immediately understood who it was. He replied, "Deacon Dao, please come in." Outside the cave mansion, Dao Ming, who had some quarrels with Yang Kai a few months ago, looked serious when he heard the words. "Step into the cave." After a while, he came to the secret room, but at this moment, Dao Ming has long lost his previous arrogance and domineering, with a smile on his face, and he clasped his fists at Yang Kai with a flattering face. "Trouble young Master Yang Qingshou, Dao has committed a crime. €1. Yang Kai glanced at him. He said lightly, "Who asked you to come here, is there any news?" Hearing this, Dao Ming straightened his expression, and said, "I am here to inform Mr. Yang by order of the Lord Master. What you need, have been found." Yang Kai got up eagerly, his eyes burst into ejaculation, and he shouted, "Really?" Dao Ming smiled and said, "The palace master personally passed down the order, how could it be false?" "Great, I finally found it." Yang Kai's face was full of joy. Although Dao Ming didn't tell him exactly what he found, what else could there be besides the catastrophe? These days, although Yang Kai has been offering sacrifices to refining slave insect bracelets, raising soul-devouring insects, and nurturing Soul Slayer knife, but he has always been thinking about the fate of the catastrophe. It's just that the agreed time hadn't arrived, so he didn't urge him either. Now finally came the news. He couldn't help but heaved a sigh of relief, and his whole body relaxed, as if the burden he had been carrying for a long time was finally unloaded. After all, calamity and disaster are related to Qin Yu's life and death. After all, he has had many opportunities in the past few months. It was all Qin Zhaoyang bought for him with the order of mortals. If he didn't get the fruit of calamity, he would really have no face to meet Qin Zhaoyang. There is no way to give the Qin family an explanation. This matter will definitely become an obsession in his heart in the future, and maybe it will turn into a demon. But now, these worries are gone, since when Zishan ordered Dao Ming to send a message to him, it means that the fruit of calamity has already been obtained. In this way, he could also bring the spiritual fruit back to Fenggalan City and hand it over to the Qin family, which solved his own knot. Dao Ming saw that he was very happy, although he didn't know what Yang Kai was looking for, but he was also happy for him, and flattered him a few words. By the way, Deacon Dao, did the palace master say where that thing is now? Yang Kai asked after recovering. Dao Ming replied. The palace master said that the things are already on the way, and they can be brought back within 3 days. I told you to rest assured that there will be no accidents. Okay, thank Palace Master Wen for me. Yang Kai clasped his fists. If Mr. Yang has no other orders, Dao will leave. Dao Ming said with a smile. Deacon Dao, let's go. Yang Kai sent Dao Ming away, but he didn't have the heart to do other things. Wen Zishan probably just wanted to feel at ease, so he sent someone to pass the news in advance, but he probably didn't expect Yang Kai to value the calamity and disaster so much. After waiting for 3 days in the cave mansion, Yang Kai left Purple Bamboo Peak early in the morning and headed straight for 10,000 Saints Peak. Arriving at the main hall at the top of the peak, before Yang Kai could make a sound, Wen Zishan's voice came from the hall, "Come in." Yang Kai was startled, but he wasn't too surprised, straightened his clothes, and stepped in. In the hall, there was no one else, only Wen Zishan sitting cross-legged, as if performing some kind of profound art. Yang Kai didn't bother him when he entered, but just waited silently. There are many touches in my heart. Wen Zishan is already at the 3rd level of the Emperor Senior Realm, and his strength is superb, but he is still so diligent, without any slack. It is not scary for a martial artist to be talented, but what is scary is not only having talent, but also working harder. Wen Zishan is undoubtedly this kind of person. It is definitely not a fluke that he can be promoted to the 3rd level of Emperor Senior. After a while, Wen Zishan closed his skills, opened his eyes, looked at Yang Kai and smiled teasingly. What? Can't wait. Yang Kai said awkwardly, see you soon and feel at ease. He is a person who values a euro love and righteousness. Wen Zishan nodded and said, the order of the Qin family is not a waste of humiliation. What you promise must be done, it's just human nature. Yang Kai replied. Wen Zishan nodded slightly, pondered for a while, and said, what did you think about what Xiao Shueting told you last time? Yang Kai heard the words, smiled wryly, and said, is it really the Master Wen who asked Elder Gao to persuade me? That's what I mean, but Xiao Shang is also very optimistic about you. Wen Zishan admitted bluntly, besides, you even entered the magic mirror, so you are more or less half a disciple of my temple. None of the disciples know the secret of its existence. Yang Kai looked solemn, pondered for a long time, seemed to be considering his words, and finally said after a while, thanks to the love of Palace Master Wen and Elder Gao. The boy has no idea of a euro joining any sect, but it's not because he doesn't like the temple, but, there are some it is inconvenient to explain the reason. A euro. What he was referring to, of course, was the matter of magic thoughts. Wen Zishan stared at him deeply, nodded and said, forget it, I won't force you. But, if one day you get tired from wandering outside, you can come to my temple. The gate of the temple is always open, you open. Yang Kai's expression moved slightly, and he bowed to the ground. Thank you for the kindness of Master Wen, if there is such a day, it must be my honor. Wen Zishan grinned, I was also like you back then. I loved being alone, I loved freedom, and I loved wandering outside, until... The corner of his mouth twitched, and he continued, I picked one in the wild and snatched it from a wild cat. Little girl who eats. Gao Shueting's appearance immediately appeared in front of Yang Kai's eyes. In the future, when you walk in the star world, you can pick up anything, but don't pick up those little girls. Wen Zishan said earnestly and kindly, these little girls looked cute and docile when they were young. They were obedient and well-behaved, but when they grow up, they are lawless. They are completely devoid of conscience. Speaking of them, they are full of tears. His extremely injured appearance made Yang Kai speechless. Full of tears, right? A cold and icy voice suddenly came from outside the hall. When the voice came, the temperature in the main hall also dropped by 3 points, as if it had come to the cold winter of March and September. Chills the skin. Wen Zishan's whole body trembled, as if he had been hit by a spell of immobilization. Stiff in place, his face changed and was brilliant. When those words fell, a beautiful figure had arrived from the layman. Gao Shueting looked indifferent, her beautiful eyes were like lightning, and she swept inward. Wen Zishan suddenly became half short, and even Yang Kai couldn't help but shiver. Murderous aura filled the air, and the Emperor's intentions were strong. Lawless, right, Gao Shueding raised the corners of her mouth and snorted softly. This, that. Wen Zishan's head was dripping with cold sweat like a waterfall, his mouth was submissive, his eyes were erratic looking at him, and he said with a flattering smile, Xiao Shueding, why are you here? You just came, and you're here. Isn't it too unruly not to let people report it? Euro. Gao Shueding said coldly. Send disaster and disaster. When she spoke, she had thrown a jade box towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai's eyes lit up, he reached out to take it, and with a flick of his finger, he opened the jade box. The inside of the box was filled with cold air, and an ice crystal-like spiritual fruit lay quietly inside. Misfortune comes to an end. Although Yang Kai has never seen the real thing, he still can tell it at a glance, and judging from the appearance of this catastrophe, it seems that it has not been long since it was picked. As expected, it should be the one from the land of the 4 seasons in the winter domain. I don't know which faction the Qingyang Temple was bought from, but it took so long. It seems that the Qingyang Temple has put in a lot of effort. He has no conscience, right? Gao Shueding didn't intend to let it go. After handing the spirit fruit to Yang Kai, she still looked at Wen Zishan coldly, her eyes were as sharp as a knife, like a sword. Wen Zishan gritted his teeth, showing the expression of a strong man breaking his wrist, and shouted at Yang Kai, the big thing is not good, the master of the hall will take a step first. Young boy, you can take care of yourself later, remember that if you encounter trouble in the future, you can come to the temple. Yang Kai didn't even say a word of thanks, Wen Zishan had already disappeared in place. Want to run? A cold light flashed in Gao Shueding's beautiful eyes, and the Emperor Baoli's sunglasses were thrown out instantly, and a ray of light like a blazing sun shone into the void. Gao Shueding found her whereabouts, but Wen Dianju still broke free from the shackles of Li Yangjing with his superb strength, and fled in the blink of an eye. Don't run away, old man, I'll let you see what it means to be lawless and devoid of conscience today. Gao Shueding gritted her teeth, stomped her feet, and chased after her while shaking her delicate body. Outside the hall, many guarding disciples opened their mouths wide, staring dumbfounded. Holding the jade box, Yang Kai also looked at this farce with a smile on his face. He couldn't laugh anymore, and slapped his thigh angrily. I forgot to ask about Broken Star Sea again. To be continued. Opening parenthesis closing parenthesis. Chapter 2248 Top Grade Earth Lays. Fengdalan City, Qin family. In Qin Yu's boudoir, on the sick bed, Qin Yu lay there with a bloodless face, coughing lightly from time to time, occasionally coughing so violently that he couldn't even breathe. An inexplicable death lingers around Qin Yu. Even ordinary people who have never practiced before can faintly feel that Qin Yu's state is not right at the moment. And if someone with a little bit of cultivation is running his divine sense to scan, he can clearly find that Qin Yu is shrouded in a faint black air at this moment. And as time went by, the black air became more and more intense. I don't know what kind of energy this black energy is. Since it appeared 2 months ago, it has been devouring Qin Yu's vitality, making her condition worse day by day. This is a very special physique, and it is a physique that is not tolerated by heaven and earth. Anyone with this kind of physique will not be able to live past the age of 18, because the laws of heaven and earth will cut off this person's vitality. Beside the sick bed, the servant girl serving Qin Yu secretly wiped away her tears, her eyes were red and swollen from crying. Qin Yu is a kind person, courteous to her superiors and subordinates. All the servants of the Qin family respect her well, and this servant girl is naturally the same. Seeing that her young lady has suffered from some serious illness, she has weakened to such an extent in just 2 months. With such an appearance, the maid is also extremely distressed. Why are you crying? Useless things, get out of here. Qin Chaoyang suddenly shouted angrily. He was also extremely worried these days. He was already upset, but now seeing this maid crying in front of him, he became more and more irritable, and couldn't help but yelled. The servant girl panicked immediately, she knelt down with a thud, but did not leave. She said, "Forgive me, ancestor. Calm down your anger, servant girl will stop crying, servant girl will not leave, servant girl will stay and take care of young lady." She kept begging, with a sincere tone. Qin Zhaoyang opened his mouth. In the end, he sighed deeply, and when he raised his hand, an invisible force spread, lifted the maidservant up, restrained her anger, and said, "That's all." The tone could not express loneliness and depression. It's the maidservant's fault, she didn't take good care of the young lady. While speaking, the maidservant wiped the corners of her eyes again, but tried not to cry out. Old ancestor. On the sick bed, Qin Yu suddenly called softly, and the words came out of his mouth. Coughing violently again, the maid hurriedly stepped forward and held her breath behind her back with her hands. After Qin Yu calmed down, Qin Zhaoyang said softly, "Yuer, take a good rest and don't say anything." Qin Yu shook his head slowly and said, "Brother Yang, hasn't he come back yet?" Hearing this, Qin Zhaoyang's face changed slightly. I don't know how to answer the call. Now that Qin Yu's 18th birthday is approaching, the only hope for Qin Yu's survival lies in Yang Kai, but there is no trace of Yang Kai so far. Qin Zhaoyang couldn't help being suspicious. Is there something wrong with myself? He has already inquired about the matter in the Land of Four Seasons. In the Land of Four Seasons, Yang Kai showed his skills, refined the Great Miracle Pill, and used his own power to play with the elite disciples of the various sects. This matter has already spread like wildfire, and it has been rumored throughout the southern region. Although Fenggalan City is a small city, but under Qin Zhaoyang's deliberate probing, how could he fail to find out? It's just, the Land of the Four Seasons was closed 3 months ago. If Yang Kai really got the fruit of calamity, he should have returned to Fenggalan City long ago, but why hasn't he been seen until now? Qin Chaoyang is not willing to treat the belly of a gentleman with the heart of a villain, but he can't feel at ease even if he doesn't see Yang Kai for a day. He didn't know whether Yang Kai came to see him because he couldn't find the fruit of disaster, or if Yang Kai didn't take the fruit of disaster seriously at all and disappeared long ago. Now that the world is big, even if he wants to find Yang Kai, he doesn't know where to start, not to mention, it is too late in time. Old ancestor, are you suspicious of Big Brother Yang? Although Qin Yu was dying, he was as compassionate as ever, and when he saw Qin Zhaoyang's expression, he could guess the worries in his heart. The ancestor didn't want to think too much, hoping that little brother Yang could send the thing back as soon as possible, but, even if he didn't get the thing, he should come back and say hello to me. Manpower is sometimes poor, and the old man can I understand, but now hey. Perhaps brother Yang has something important to delay. Qin Yu said softly. Just after he finished speaking, he coughed violently again. I hope so. Qin Zhaoyang smiled wryly, but felt somewhat disapproving. Even if there is something important to delay, it is always possible to send a letter to someone, right? Deep in his heart, he felt more and more that Yang Kai probably took the Qin family's million sword and didn't want to come back. If you lose the Emperor Treasure Million Sword, you will lose it. Although this thing is valuable, but the Qin family is now in decline, and no one can use it to exert its power. If everyone is innocent, he is guilty of having a jade, and it may cause some troubles. But the price of misjudging the person made Qin Zhaoyang feel extremely heartbroken, and secretly regretted that he had entrusted such an important matter to a person he had just met not long ago. If he had personally gone to the Land of Four Seasons, there might still be a ray of hope that Qin Yu wouldn't be lying here waiting to die. The strong self-blame deep in his heart made Qin Zhaoyang sleepless at night and had trouble sleeping and eating. Brother Yang will come back. Qin Yu said with confidence. He is not the kind of person who likes to take advantage of others and leave without telling. Miss, what time is it, and you are still helping that man with good words? The maid looked at her distressedly, tears were about to come out again. What do you know? Qin Yu scolded her, and continued. Although I don't have much contact with Brother Yang, you should know, Patriarch, that I have the heavenly eye of creation, and I am extremely accurate in judging people. Hearing this, Qin Chaoyang's eyes lit up, and a little hope was inexplicably born in his originally desperate mood. Indeed, although Qin Yu's cultivation base is not high, she is very accurate in judging people because of her good fortune sky pupil. Generally speaking, she can know the good and evil of a person at the first glance, whether it is worth it or not. Trust. If it wasn't for Qin Yu's consent, Qin Chaoyang would not have dared to give up the place to enter the Four Seasons to Yang Kai anyway. So Brother Yang must have been delayed because of something. Qin Yu closed the coffin and said after finishing speaking, Old ancestor, you can go now, you don't have to worry about me, you will get better sooner or later. But here in Fenggalan City, I heard from Hoyer that many important people have come here during this period, even my Qin family has one of them. Qin Zhaoyang nodded upon hearing this. You have been seriously ill these days, and the ancestor didn't tell you about it, but this little girl is chewing her tongue behind her back. While speaking, he glared at the maid named Wei. The servant girl quickly stuck out her tongue and explained. The servant girl saw how distressed the lady was, so she said something casually. The servant girl will not dare next time. If there is such a thing again, I will break your dog legs. Qin Zhaoyang snorted coldly. Don't be afraid, the ancestor is scaring you. Qin Yu smiled and patted the back of Weir's hand. Qin Zhaoyong sighed deeply, and said, the servants in the family are all spoiled by you. Old ancestor, what happened in the city recently, why did it attract so many people? Qin Yu turned around and asked. In the past 2 years, Fenggalan City seems to have been restless. First, the presence of the Holy Spirit caused overlords like the Star God Palace to send strong men to investigate the details. The Musan city was almost destroyed because of the siege of the demonic energy. Fortunately, the demonic energy receded on its own at the last moment, allowing those demons to regain their sanity. Otherwise, Musan city must be an empty city now. That time, it was another few emperors who worked tirelessly and came to investigate in person. Now I don't know why, it has attracted many strong people to come. Although Qin Yu heard some rumors from Weir, she didn't know the details, so she naturally wanted to ask clearly. Tracing back to the source, this incident has something to do with the last time the demonic energy was born. Qin Zhaoyong sighed, with a worried expression on his face. Hearing this, Qin Yu's pretty face changed slightly, and she exclaimed, could it be that the magic energy that disappeared inexplicably reappeared? Weir, who was standing beside her, also trembled delicately, showing a frightened expression. That's not true, Qin Zhaoyong replied, the devilish energy inexplicably receded last time, and it never appeared again, but, below the seal we visited last time, a high-grade earth vein unexpectedly appeared. Quote. A high-grade earth vein. Qin Yu's beautiful eyes lit up, there is a high-grade earth vein near Fenggalan City. Qin Chaoyong also laughed and said, this incident also surprised us old fellows. You also know that the reason why Fenggalan City has not been settled by big forces is because our place is not only small, but also not rich in aura, and there is nothing special about it. Properties, so these years, the city lord's mansion has been in charge of the quartet. But once this high-grade ground vein appears, the situation will be different. A mere top-grade ley line doesn't make many big forces care so much, does it? Is there any other reason? Exactly. Qin Zhaoyong looked solemn. Near the high-grade spiritual vein, it seems that there are many branches of middle-grade and low-grade earth veins. In addition, there seems to be source crystal veins in the direction of Yuqing Mountain. Know how the grade is? Qin Yu couldn't help being moved. Hearing this, she finally understood why Fenggalan City could attract people to come. The source crystal veins alone are enough to make people scramble, not to mention that there are many veins of different qualities. These land veins and source crystal veins, the Star God Palace and several top powers don't look down on them, but those first and second line powers that are inferior to these top powers cannot be ignored. The situation in Fenggalan City is changing now, dozens of Daoyuan third level realms have come, and I don't know if the Emperor's senior realm will come, but as long as the interests here are large enough, it will only be a matter of time before the Emperor's senior realm is attracted. After Qin Yu finished listening, he said solemnly, Old ancestor, at such a critical moment, my Qin family should not come forward to do anything, just wait and see the changes. In front of those behemoths, my Qin family is nothing but a pebble. Powerless to fight it. To be continued. Chapter 2249 Ningyuan Technique. P.S. The day before yesterday at 4 o'clock in the morning, there was an earthquake in Xiaomo's side, and I was afraid after knowing it, and then I didn't sleep well last night, I didn't have a good rest, it was a tragedy. Of course the patriarch knows about this kind of thing. Qin Zhaoyong smiled wryly. It's just that my Qin family is rooted in Fenggalan City, so I can't stay out of it at all. Those strong men from first and second tier sects come to Fenggalan City, and they don't want to be subdued. For the place of the inn, we found several big families in our area. The Zhou family, the Du family, the Liang family, and the Xin family all received many people, and even the city lord's mansion was taken over by people from Feixiong Palace. Even the city lord's mansion. Qin Yu couldn't help covering his red lips with his hand. Qin Chaoyong said, at Feixiong Palace, at any rate, there is a strong emperor prestige realm sitting in command. How can the city lord's two-level Daoyuan cultivation base compete with such forces? In comparison, my Qin family only comes here. It's already good enough to have one side of power, but the city lord's mansion, tisk tisk, it's in dire straits. What's going on? Qin Yu asked suspiciously. Qin Zhaoyong's expression darkened, and he said, Zhuangpan is back. What? Qin Yu's pretty face changed when he heard the words, and he gritted his teeth and said, the person who is greedy for life and afraid of death has the face to come back. When the demonic energy besieged the city that day, everyone rushed out of the city with the zhenwu 7 section formation and went to the sealed place to strengthen the magic seal. As a result, Zhuang Pan was greedy for life and feared death, and at a critical moment he abandoned everyone and fled, causing the zhenwu 7 section formation to fail. Self-defeating. Although Duan Yuanshan tried his best to turn the tide at the last moment and brought Qin Chaoyang and Qin Yu back to Fenggalan City, the sealing matter was not perfect, and they didn't know what happened after that. They only knew that the three great emperors came, and then the demonic energy took the initiative recede. Zhuang Pan has since disappeared. He was originally the deputy city lord of Fenggalan City. Like the drunkard, he assisted Duan Yuanshan in governing Fenggalan City for tens of thousands of miles. After he left, the position of deputy city lord was naturally missing one person. Duan Yuanshan also tried to win over Yang Kai before, wanting him to fill the vacancy in the Zhuang Pan. But Yang Kai politely declined. However, because of what happened last time, the Qin family, Duan Yuanshan and others had great opinions on Zhuang Pan. Duan Yuanshan even said in public that if he sees Zhuang Pan again in the future, he will be executed. I don't know, it's been a few months. This guy actually came back again, which surprised Qin Yu. Qin Zhaoyang snorted coldly. Why is he so proud to come back? This time he's coming back very arrogantly. What's going on? Qin Yu asked with a frown, faintly feeling something hidden inside. What else could be going on? He just took refuge in Feixiong Palace. Qin Chaoyang sneered. He also lured a group of people from Feixiong Palace to the City Lord's mansion. City Lord Duan's life now. I'm afraid it's not easy. €. Hearing this, Qin Yu was silent for a while, and seemed to be able to imagine Duan Yuanshan's helplessness. Now that Zhuang Pan has taken refuge in Feixiong Palace, he is probably trying to pretend to be a tiger in front of him. With the background and backing of Feixiong Palace, Duan Yuanshan can't do anything to him anyway, but will act according to his face. In the past, the priority was reversed. Duan Yuanshan is probably extremely aggrieved now. And now the City Lord's mansion. It has also existed in name only. Every family is having a hard time right now. The Zhou family, the Du family, the Liang family, and the Xin family are all in a mess. That old guy Xin Gaoji has come to me more than once to vomit his bitterness. Qin Zhaoyang said, sighing with a sigh. He shook his head slowly. Then my Qin family. Qin Yu hesitated to speak. It's fine for the time being. Qin Zhaoyang said in a deep voice, the one who lives in my Qin family is a sect called Bafang sect. It is a middle-level sect, and the leader is a young man. He lives in seclusion on weekdays, and he practices very hard. I didn't ask my Qin family to do anything, and the others are relatively easy to get along with. That's good. Qin Yu's face relaxed when he heard this. In comparison, my Qin family is pretty good. Qin Zhaoyang smiled slightly. They were talking, when they suddenly heard a rush of footsteps outside, as if someone was running towards them in a hurry. Qin Zhaoyang couldn't help frowning. After a while, a maidservant's voice came from outside the door, old ancestor. The voice trembled slightly, showing emotional instability. Take a good rest, the ancestor will come whenever he goes. Qin Zhaoyang didn't want to disturb Qin Yu's mood because of trivial matters, so he said softly, then turned and walked towards the layman. Old ancestor, Qin Yu called out from behind, be careful in everything. Qin Zhaoyang nodded lightly, walked out, closed the door, and looked at the maid standing outside the door like lightning. The maidservant's eyes were full of tears, and when she was about to open her mouth to say something, Qin Chaoyang stared back at her. The next moment, Qin Chaoyang walked towards the outsider, followed by the maidservant. Qin Chaoyang didn't say until he was far enough away from Qin Yu's boudoir, what's the matter, let's talk about it now. Old ancestor. The maid hurriedly told what happened just now. Qin Zhaoyang's expression sank when he heard the words, and he ran towards the outer courtyard while his figure was shaking. In the boudoir, Qin Yu said to Wei'er, help me up. Wei'er was startled and asked, Miss, what are you going to do? Go and have a look, I always feel a little restless, as if something is about to happen. Qin Yu said solemnly. There is an ancestor taking care of you outside, what will happen? Miss, you are inconvenient now, so don't get up. Will you help me? Qin Yu stared. Wei'er panicked and said, Miss, I don't dare to serve you, if the ancestor knows. Then I'll do it myself. Qin Yu gritted her teeth and got up slowly, but a simple movement made her forehead sweat like a bean, and a hard moan came out of her throat. Wei'er watched from the side, anxious like an ant on a hot pot, trying to persuade her in every possible way, but Qin Yu refused to listen and finally could only help while crying. City Lord's mansion. In the main hall of the City Lord, a man who looked to be about 20 years old was sitting on the top seat. Although the man was born with a handsome appearance, he gave off a very sinister feeling, as if this man was always planning. It's like a conspiracy. The man's cultivation base is not very high, only the first level of Daoyuan, but his temperament is by no means comparable to that of ordinary disciples of aristocratic sects. This person is the current young palace master of Feixiang Palace, Ning Yuanshu. After the inexplicable death of Ning Yuancheng, the previous young palace master of Feixiang Palace, Ning Yuanshu, who was the younger brother of Ning Yuancheng, was established as the master of the young palace. Beside Ning Yuanshu stood a Daoyuan third-layer powerhouse, one with an expressionless face and eyes closed, and the other with an expression of calm and prestige. Crane hair red face. These two are the two guardians on the left and right of Feixiang Palace, high mountains and flowing waters. The one on the left is a high mountain, and the one on the right is a flowing water. Both of them are proficient in rhythm and are good at attacking music. The means are secretive, and the strength is also extremely strong. At this moment, Ning Yuanshu was tasting the spiritual fruit on the table with a smile on his face. And below him, Zhuang Pan, the former deputy city lord of Fenggalan City, looked at a person coldly. There was a look of contempt and pride on his face. The person he was looking at was Duan Yuanshan. The drunken man blushed in a state of drunkenness, standing beside Duan Yuanshan, as if he was drunk. His eyes were hazy and erratic. I don't know why the young palace master summoned the two of us here. Duan Yuanshan suddenly asked with his fists clasped, his expression worried. Anyone who is given to the dove to occupy the magpie's nest will not be in a good mood. Duan Yuanshan didn't dare to resist because he was concerned about the strength of the two guardians of the high mountains and flowing waters in the background of Feixiang Palace. He could only acquiesce that the other party occupied the city lord's mansion, a place that symbolizes the majesty of the city lord. These days, he and the drunken man also live in seclusion and don't care about world affairs. Who would have thought that Ning Yuanshu suddenly called them over today? The two of you were called here, naturally there is something for you to do. Didn't you see that the young palace master is tasting the spiritual fruit? Just wait and wait obediently. Zhuang Pan suddenly reprimanded in a cold voice. A few months ago, he had a conflict with Yang Kai. Own secret treasures were completely destroyed by Yang Kai's beating, and he was almost seriously injured. At that time, Duan Yuanshan not only did not help him. Instead, he stood on Yang Kai's side and reprimanded him. Zhuang Pan naturally holds a grudge in his heart, and now that he stands up, he wished to pay back the humiliation of that day 100-fold. Hi! The drunkard suddenly hiccuped extremely loudly, and immediately the hall was filled with a strong smell of alcohol. Ning Yuanshu, who was in the first place, frowned, not in the mood to taste any more spiritual fruits, and let go of what he was holding with some displeasure. My lord, hiccup, little old man, why did I hear the dog barking, He divided his sentence into several paragraphs before finishing his sentence. See. You. Zhuang Pan was furious when he heard the words. Why couldn't he hear the unabashed insult and sarcasm in the other party's words? Ning Yuanshu waved his hand, stopping his subsequent clamor. Seeing this, Zhuang Pan didn't dare to say another word, but just looked at the drunkard with resentment, as if he wanted to write down this hatred. Master Duan. Ning Yuanshu greeted Duan Yuanshan with a smile. The latter frowned. Although the other party had a smile on his face, Duan Yuanshan felt like a poisonous snake that kept swallowing its core, and it was extremely dangerous, which made him shudder. What orders does the young palace master have? Duan Yuanshan said in a deep voice. This young master is out of the palace this time. My father deliberately asked the two guardians of Gaoshan Liushui to follow. The two guardians are the strongest in this palace after my father. They will not be dispatched easily. Does City Master Duan know why? Asked with a smile. Duan Yuanshan thought that your Lao Su sent someone to protect you, and it was none of my business. Besides, don't people like the young master of the sect always need a few bodyguards when they go out? He thought so in his heart, but said, I don't know. Hee. Ning Yuanshu smiled slightly, and said, of course it's to protect my safety. Duan Yuanshan's face darkened, showing an expression of, you're kidding me. If this question is so simple, do you still need to ask it? Sure enough, Ning Yuanshu changed the subject, and continued, my father said that the public security in Fenggalan City is very bad. Duan Yuanshan frowned, and said, "Where did you start this matter?" "I have been in charge of Fenggalan City for some years. Although the warriors in the city are not said to be kind and easy to get along with, they rarely happen such as murder and robbery." "No, please forgive Duan for not being able to agree." To be continued. Chapter 2250. The boy surnamed Yang. "Really?" Ning Yuanshu smiled with a deep meaning, staring at Duan Yuanshan and said, "Then, how did my eldest brother die?" Duan Yuanshan shook his body, frowned and said, "What does the young palace master mean by this?" "He." Ning Yuanshu laughed, and said, "My eldest brother, Ning Yuancheng, does city master Duan know?" Duan Yuanshan was silent. He naturally knew Ningyuan City. When the Holy Spirit appeared last time, Ningyuan City brought some followers to Fenggalan City, past. Ning Yuanshu said, "As far as I know, my elder brother disappeared after he participated in your auction in Fenggalan City. Although the body was not found, the soul lamp placed in the palace was extinguished immediately. Obviously encountered some kind of poisonous hand. Even if the place where the accident happened is not in Fenggalan City, it is not far from here. Should City Lord Duan give me an explanation?" Duan Yuanshan's expression changed when he heard this. He thought that the other party was trying to settle accounts with him. Although Ning Yuancheng's death had nothing to do with him, and he didn't know anything about it, but after all, the last time he showed up was in Fenggalan City, and then he was murdered. In any case, Fenggalan City has some responsibility. If Feixiong Palace really pursues it, Duan Yuanshan really can't get rid of the crime. Seeing his ugly face, Ning Yuanshu laughed and said, "City Master Duan, don't panic. Speaking of this matter, I would like to thank you. Young Palace Master is joking with Duan." Duan Yuanshan looked up with a gloomy expression. Ning Yuanshu shook his head and said, "Of course not, but if my elder brother hadn't had an accident on your side of Fenggalan City, how could I have the chance to be established as the young palace master and sit in the current position? Duan City Master, tell me, this young master as I shouldn't thank you very much." Hearing these words, Duan Yuanshan not only did not feel the slightest joy, but felt cold all over. His own elder brother died, and the guy in front of him was not only not sad. On the contrary, he looked extremely happy, excited himself to replace him, and said so in public. It can be seen that Ning Yuanshu's character is bad. Duan Yuanshan did not dare to take it lightly when getting along with such a person. On the first seat, Ning Yuanshu said again, "My good-for-nothing elder brother died as soon as he died. But because of this, the sect suffered a lot of losses, which is really heartbreaking. In addition, Elder Fu who came to investigate the cause of my elder brother's death also died in the Fenggalan City. Elder Fu has a Daoyuan 3rd level cultivation base, and he is also a rare strong man in this sect, so he can't just die like this without knowing it. Should the City Lord Duan give me some advice on this matter?" Confession. Speaking of the latter, his face gradually turned cold, and he looked at Duan Yuanshan aggressively. "Elder Fu." Duan Yuanshan was startled when he heard the words. His expression changed slightly. He suddenly thought of a person, and whispered, "The person the young palace master is referring to, does it look like this?" While speaking, he stretched out his hand and waved forward. The source power surged in front of him, and soon the image of one person emerged. Ning Yuanshu glanced at it, nodded and said, "Exactly. He is my sect, Fu Stone. Elder Fu." Duan Yuanshan's complexion changed drastically, and he murmured, "It turns out that he is the elder of the noble sect, no wonder he has such a high level of cultivation." He also suddenly thought of this person, but he didn't expect that this person was really the elder Fu that Ning Yuanshu was talking about. He is not familiar with this person, but at the time when the demonic energy besieged the city, the Qin family contributed the Xuanwu 7 section formation. Wanting to form an formation and rush out of the city, Duan Yuanshan was looking for suitable candidates. This person recommended himself and became a member of the team. At that time, there was another young woman from the 3rd level of Daoyuan. Although Duan Yuanshan knew that these two people were from extraordinary backgrounds, he didn't investigate her details carefully. It was not known until today that one of them was the elder of Feixiong Palace. He pondered for a while, then cupped his fists and said, "If the young palace master asks how Elder Fu died, Duan will know a thing or two." "Oh, let's hear it." Ning Yuanshu raised his eyebrows. A few months ago, the young palace master must have heard about the birth of the ancient great demon energy near Fenggalan City. He immediately recounted what happened at that time, even with Zhuangpan's greedy fear at the last moment. He didn't hide the fact that he abandoned everyone and fled. Zhuang Pan listened with his face sinking like water, but he couldn't refute, his face turned red and blue. The two elders of Gaoshan Liushui looked at Zhuang Pan with contempt even more, so that he wished to find a crack in the ground to drill down and never come out for the rest of his life. The big formation was broken, and the demonic energy was fierce. Duan was powerless to fight back, so he could only fight with his life, and rushed back to the city with the two of the Qin family, but this elder Fu did not leave immediately but chose to stay. Duan has no way of knowing what happened, but since elder Fu is dead, he may have been injured by demon energy. Is that so? Ning Yuenshu didn't have much doubt after listening to his narration, but after pondering for a moment, he said, in this way, I can't blame City Lord Duan for this matter but Deacon Zhuang's fault. He turned his gaze to Zhuangpan all of a sudden. Zhuangpan's cultivation is not low, at least he has Daoyuan cultivation. He joined Feixiong Palace halfway and got a job as a deacon. He thought that this would lead to prosperity, but Duan Yuenshen's words made him hate to the body. He immediately scolded Duan Yuenshen bloody in his heart. Sensing the coldness in Ning Yuenshu's eyes, Zhuang Pan fell to his knees with a thump in fright, without integrity, seeing Duan Yuenshen and the drunken man look contemptuous. Young Palace Master Mingzhan, the situation that day was definitely not what Duan Yuenshen said. The reason why my subordinates did what they did was actually, in fact. He made up half of it, but found that he couldn't make it up. Only cold sweat. What's the truth? Ning Yuenshu kept sneering, his eyes flickering coldly, as if, you don't give me an explanation today, so I'll make you look good. At the critical juncture, Zhuang Pan was blessed to the heart, his brain was wide open, and he said incessantly, that day, I just saw that I couldn't do anything, so I retreated bravely, so that I can leave this useful body and serve as the young palace master, After he finished speaking, he looked at Ning Yuenshu obsequiously. This flatterer is of a good standard. Duan Yuenshen whispered to the drunken man beside him, why didn't I know this guy was so eloquent before? Although the volume was lowered, all warriors present at the Dao Origin Realm, who hasn't heard it yet? Hi, the drunken man hiccuped loudly again, as if he would never wake up. On the contrary, Zhuang Pan couldn't help but glared at him viciously, his face was red and white, he was afraid that he was a little embarrassed. Well, it's rare that Deacon Zhuang is so loyal. Thank you. Ning Yuenshu looked joyful after being stunned for a moment, and then he casually threw a spiritual fruit towards the Zhuang Pan. Instead of feeling humiliated, Zhuang Pan laughed and clasped his hands together. Thank you, young palace master, for the reward. As he said that, he bent down, lowered his head, and bit the spirit fruit in his mouth like a dog eating food, and ate it. Duan Yuenshen couldn't stand it anymore, he turned his head away. Thinking of working with this person before, he felt sick for a while. Master Duan, Ning Yuenshu turned his gaze to Duan Yuenshen again, and said, I have a request. Duan Yuenshen said, young palace master, please speak. Ning Yuenshu said, this young master is a foreigner after all. The so-called strong dragon does not overwhelm the local snake. How to say here is the 1-acre 3-point land of City Lord Duan. This young master hopes that City Lord Duan can help Ben Shao find out the cause of my elder brother's death. If someone harm, the murderer must be found. The corner of Duan Yuenshen's mouth twitched, and when he was about to say something casually, Zhuang Pan stood up and said eagerly, if the young palace master wants to find out the cause of the young master Cheng's death, there is a suspicious person here, candidate. Oh, Ning Yuenshu looked at him in surprise, what do you know? Tell me. There is a boy surnamed Yang who once used a secret treasure of the building boat of our sect. Zhuang Pan said, and the secret treasure of the building boat has been used by young Master Cheng before. Yang's boy must know something inside, maybe that Yang's murder was motivated by money, and maybe he killed Cheng Dashao. Is there such a thing? Ning Yuenshu's eyes flashed coldly. Exactly. Just as Zhuang Pan finished speaking, he saw Ning Yuenshu suddenly slam a palm at him. In the palm, the source power was ups and downs. It was obvious that some secret technique had been used. Zhuang Pan was shocked and resisted instinctively, but just now with this movement, the elder Gao Shan who had been keeping his eyes closed all this time suddenly opened his eyes, and a ray of real light shot out from the eyes, covering Zhuang Pan. Zhuang Pan froze in place all of a sudden, and the next moment there was a muffled bang from his chest, accompanied by a scream. Zhuang Pan flew upside down and hit the wall heavily, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Gold stars burst out in front of his eyes, his expression became sluggish. Young palace master. He tried his best, his expression flustered. What do you mean? Ning Yuenshu snorted coldly. Since there is such important news, why didn't you report it earlier? Zhuang Pan opened his mouth wide, and murmured, this subordinate thinks. What do you think? Ning Yuenshu looked at him coldly. You think I don't want to find out the cause of that trash's death? HMPH, although I don't like that guy, he is a member of our sect after all, so I don't know why. What is the proper way to die? The cause of death must be found out, and the murderer must be severely punished. Yes, it's because the subordinates didn't think carefully. Zhuang Pan responded impatiently. Where is that boy surnamed Yang? Ning Yuenshu asked in a deep voice. I'm afraid I have to ask City Lord Duan about this person's whereabouts. Zhuang Pan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and looked at Duan Yuenshu coldly, gloating at his misfortune. Ning Yuenshu also shifted his gaze, looking aggressively at Duan Yuenshu. Duan Yuenshu frowned, and said, he has been away from Fenggalan City for several months, and Duan does not know where he is now. Then what school did he come from? Is there anyone close to him in Fenggalan City? Ning Yuenshu asked again. I don't know Duan, who is the master of Hepai. He came to Fenggalan City 2 years ago, and he doesn't seem to have any relatives in the city. To be continued. Chapter 2251 Bullying. The Qin family. Qin Chaoyang rushed to a courtyard in a hurry, glanced inside, and his expression sank immediately. I saw a lot of people gathered in the courtyard. Some were the Bafang sect disciples who lived in his Qin family, and some were the guards and servants of the Qin family. Although there are not many people in the Bafangmen, all of them have Daoyuan realm cultivation, and although the guards of the Qin family surrounded them 3 floors in and 3 floors outside, all of them are in the Void King stage or returning to the realm. The warrior of the virtual mirror. Although there are many people, the momentum is not comparable. The atmosphere at the scene was a bit heavy, and there was still a hint of blood in the air. The sound of Qin Zhaoyang's heavy and hasty footsteps startled everyone, and many guards looked back, and when they saw him coming, they all whispered, "Old ancestor." On the contrary, the disciples of the Bafangmen who were surrounded by them had a slightly ugly expression on their faces. Qin Zhaoyang nodded slightly, and walked straight forward. The crowd voluntarily separated to let him pass unimpeded. When he got to the center, Qin Zhaoyang glanced at the ground, his eyelids shrank slightly, and a trace of anger crept into his heart. But seeing the corpse of a woman lying on the ground was covered with blood, and her death was miserable. This corpse was obviously a maidservant of the Qin family, and Qin Zhaoyang recognized it at a glance. The maidservant even brought him tea a few days ago. Today, however, the corpse is lying here, with a pair of beautiful eyes wide open, and he will not rest in peace. And looking at the cause of the maid's death, it seemed that someone had shattered her chest with great force. Her entire chest was sunken, and the vomit at the corner of her mouth still contained pieces of internal organs. Looking at this miserable scene, Qin Chaoyang's mood fluctuated, and his whole body trembled slightly. The disciples of Bafangmen look at me, and I look at you. All of them had awkward expressions, especially a handsome young man with pale complexion. Who did it? After a long silence, Qin Zhaoyang took a deep breath, although his tone was calm. But the trembling voice revealed the injustice in his heart. When he was speaking, he raised his eyes and glanced at the people from Bafangmen. Those people all looked away, not daring to look at him. If anyone knows, stand up and speak up. Don't be afraid, Qin Zhaoyang shouted, his eyes swept over his guards and maidservants. One of the maids stood up, biting her red lips, her face pale, as if she hadn't recovered from the shock in front of her. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. At this moment, suppressing her crying, she fell to her knees in front of Qin Zhaoyang with a thud, and said, "Old ancestor, Xiaohuan will not die with peace, and I ask the ancestor to make the decision for her. Stand up and tell me what's going on." Qin Zhaoyang bent down and helped the maidservant up. After the maid got up, she raised her head and glanced at a person in the Bafang gate. But seeing that person was staring at her viciously at this moment, she couldn't help but turn pale with fright, and screamed. Qin Chaoyang was naturally aware of it. Putting her hand on the maidservant's shoulder, a stream of pure source power poured in, soothing the fear in her heart, and said softly, "The ancestor is here, no one can bully you, tell the truth." "Yes." The maid nodded slightly. Zhu Lip lightly said, "The servant girl and Xiaohuan are ordered by the ancestor to take care of the daily life of the adults here. They will do their best and do not dare to slack off in the slightest. Today the servant girl and Xiaohuan came here together. I brought some food to a certain lord, After putting down the fruit plate, the servant and maid were about to leave, but unexpectedly. When she said this, she seemed to recall something extremely terrifying, her delicate body trembled, and she couldn't continue speaking. Qin Zhaoyong waited patiently and continued to help with his strength. After a while, the servant girl gradually calmed down and said, "Unexpectedly, the Lord had malicious intentions and wanted to force the servant girl and Xiaohuan to serve him, but the servant girl refused to do so." What happened? Xiaohuan suddenly let out a scream and flew out of the wing, and when the slaves came out to investigate, she just. Hearing this, Qin Chaoyong exerted a little force on his hands, and the maid fell asleep. He said to a guard beside him, "Take her down and let her have a good rest." Yes. Hearing the words, the guard quickly picked up the maidservant and ran out of the courtyard. Only then did Qin Chaoyong turn his head to look at a certain wing in the courtyard, but saw that the door of that wing was broken, obviously smashed by something. Combined with what the maid said earlier, it should be the maid named Xiaohuan who was kicked out after that, ruined the door's socket. Which friend lives in this wing? Qin Chaoyong pointed to the wing where the accident happened, and looked sharply at the people of Bafangmen. Several people all looked away, flickering, as if they knew they were wrong, and felt a little embarrassed. But there was one person, who became angry from embarrassment, puffed out his chest, and shouted, "I don't live here, what's the matter?" As soon as these words came out, all the guards of the Qin family locked their eyes on that person, and so did Qin Zhaoyong. This person was the handsome Bafang sect disciple with pale complexion. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, the man had no shame on his face, and said with a sneer, "What do you want to do? Before you do what you want to do, you'd better weigh your own abilities first." When he spoke, he stimulated the source power in his body, and in an instant, the cultivation base of the second level of Daoyuan could be seen at a glance. Qin Zhaoyong was forced to retreat a few steps by this momentum, and the guards were even more unbearable. All of them looked as if they were being crushed by mountains, their expressions were hard, and the bones in their bodies creaked. Although Qin Zhaoyong was oppressed by the opponent's momentum, he didn't flinch in the slightest. Instead, he urged his strength and forced himself to stand where he was, and said in a deep voice, "What? My friend is going to destroy my Qin family? I didn't mean that, don't talk nonsense." The white-skinned man shouted. "Did Xiaohuan be killed by a friend?" Qin Zhaoyong gritted his teeth and asked. The fair-skinned man turned pale, and murmured, "I don't want to either. I didn't mean it, it's just that she bit me. I was angry for a while and missed. Look, how badly she bit me." While speaking, he rolled up his sleeves, and he saw a row of fine tooth marks on that arm. "Just because of this, you killed her?" Qin Zhaoyong suddenly approached a few steps forward, his clothes rattling automatically without any wind. Although his cultivation base is higher than Qin Zhaoyong, seeing his angry face, the white man actually lost his aura, stepped back a little, and quibbled, "I told you it wasn't on purpose, what else do you want? I am also a cultivator, so I naturally know that there are occasional mistakes. This old man is a cultivator, but this old man will never force a non-trained ordinary person to do something he doesn't want to do, let alone kill someone by mistake." Qin Zhaoyong said angrily. "You old bastard." The white-skinned man was also angry, "I still can't tell you clearly." Hee. At this time, another middle-aged man stood up, smiled and clasped his fists at Qin Zhaoyong and said, "Patriarch Qin, is it convenient for me to take a step to speak? If you have anything to say, just say it here." Qin Zhaoyong replied coldly. When he hit a soft nail, the middle-aged man also had an embarrassing expression, and secretly scolded Qin Zhaoyong for being ungrateful, but he didn't want to be too reluctant. After pondering for a while, he said, "Patriarch Qin, my junior brother Lin Yun accidentally killed him. Although the servant girl of the noble family has made a mistake, but now he is extremely regretful, and asks Patriarch Qin to raise his hand, so that this matter can be reduced to a minor one." Extremely regretful. Qin Zhaoyong squinted at the man named Lin Yun, and said with a sneer, "Is this old man blind? Why can't he see that he has any regrets?" The middle-aged man immediately cast a look at Lin Yun. Lin Yun muttered something dissatisfied, and quickly drooped his head, looking listless. "Patriarch Qin, you can't come back to life after death, so you can't ask my brother Lin Yun to pay for his life, right?" The middle-aged man said with a smile. "He dares." Lin Yun suddenly raised his head again and sneered. "Shut up." The middle-aged man gave Lin Yun a fierce look, which made him calm down a little. The middle-aged man looked at Qin Zhaoyong again, and said in a low voice, "Patriarch Qin, I won't hide it from you. junior brother Lin, are not usually arrogant and domineering. I'm just a little obsessed with women. Today's incident is probably because of that. However, he has been here for a while, and he has always been very peaceful, but today he is a sperm, so people don't know what to say about him. When he was in the sect, the deputy sect master was very fond of him. He has some tempers that we can't bear. Patriarch Qin, don't care about him like him. Deputy sect master, Qin Zhaoyang's eyes narrowed. Oh, by the way, Lin Rui's deputy sect master is his uncle. The middle-aged man explained with a smile. Qin Zhaoyang couldn't hear the meaning behind his words. Don't say that Lin Yun has a backer. Even if he doesn't have this backer, no one in the Qin family can stop him just because of his cultivation at the second level of Daoyuan. Now that this level of worry is added, Qin Zhaoyang immediately knows that it is absolutely impossible for him to pay for his life. The Qin family can't provoke the Bafang sect at all. Although the latter is not a big sect, it is hundreds of times stronger than the Qin family. Thinking of this, Qin Zhaoyang couldn't help feeling a little disheartened and lonely. His maidservant was beaten to death in his own home, but as an ancestor, he was unable to punish the murderer, which made him feel uneasy. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Lin Yun seemed extremely impatient, and shouted at this moment, isn't it just a maid, can you just pay some money? Is 100,000 source crystals enough? If not, I will give you 200,000. Like you guys' small family, 200,000 is a huge sum of money, enough for you to spend for several years, so don't toast or eat fine wine. He looked contemptuous and disdainful. How could he have any regrets? It seemed that he didn't kill the maidservant on the ground. Hearing the words, the middle-aged man didn't have the slightest intention to stop him. He obviously also had this idea in mind. It would be best if he could pay some money and make peace with the matter. Anyway, what happened today must not be spread out. When Qin Zhaoyang heard this, his originally lonely expression suddenly became furious. The middle-aged man hurriedly comforted him, and said, Patriarch Qin, please calm down. Although my junior brother Lin Yun's words are not pleasant, what I mentioned is probably a solution. Patriarch Qin will set a price, and I will never refuse. To be continued. Chapter 2252 You Go. It can be seen that the middle-aged man from the Bafang sect really wanted to make the big and small things smaller. Although the strength of the people from the Bafang sect was irresistible to the Qin family, after all, it was the wrongdoing that came first, and the middle-aged man I also don't want to make the matter too big, lest the rumors go out and make me lose face. Qin Zhaoyang looked warm and angry. He didn't say a word, and he didn't know what was going on in his heart, but anyone could see the unwillingness and anger in his eyes. He just stood there, clenching his fists. Seeing this, Lin Yun sneered even more, and said, Old Patriarch Qin, you'd better think it over carefully. One wrong decision is enough to make a small family like your Qin family be beaten. Speaking of the latter, his tone suddenly became gloomy, full of threats. And at this moment, a voice suddenly came from outside the courtyard. 200,000 source crystals, just want to buy a life. Cough cough. Is this life so cheap? When the man spoke, he coughed lightly, as if he was seriously ill. Lin Yun was furious, turned his head to look in the direction of the source of the voice, and shouted loudly. But seeing over there, Qin Yu walked slowly with Xiaohui's support. His face was pale, his body was frail, like a little flower blown by the wind and rain. I felt pity for it. Lin Yun stared blankly, and then his eyes lit up, staring at Qin Yu with an excited expression on his face. Qin Yu was already good-looking, 1/4 even though he was seriously ill now. He added a morbid sense of beauty, which made Lin Yun a little sensual, and couldn't stop. As the middle-aged man said, Lin Yun is a bit obsessed with women, and he has been in Fenggalan City for almost 2 months. He has been living in the Qin family these days, but today he doesn't know why the sperm is on his head. A maidservant moved her hands and feet. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a big mess. When he saw Qin Yu at this moment, he suddenly felt that he was blind before, and had thought about such 2 ordinary-looking maidservants, which really humiliated his identity. Even if you want to have any thoughts, you should focus on the woman in front of you. Qin Zhaoyang's face changed slightly, and he hurriedly walked towards Qin Yu. Standing beside her and supporting her, he blamed, Why did you come out? Didn't you tell you to rest? Qin Yu forced a smile and said, I always feel that something is going to happen. Don't worry, come and have a look. When she was speaking, her beautiful eyes aimed at the corpse of the maid named Xiaohuan, and seeing her miserable state, her already pale face became even paler. This girl. Lin Yun smiled brightly, speaking in a romantic and suave manner. When he was about to say hello to Qin Yu, the middle-aged man glared at him fiercely. Back off, don't you think it's not enough? Lin Yun seemed to be a little jealous of the middle-aged man's appearance, and couldn't help but look embarrassed when he heard this, and shut up. Several other Bafangman disciples also looked at him complainingly, blaming him for not restraining himself. It was unbearable. This should be Miss Qin Yu. The middle-aged man clasped his fists away and smiled at Qin Yu. Senior, recognize me? Qin Yu coughed a few times. His gaze was like water, looking at each other. The middle-aged man smiled slightly. Said, when I was inquiring about the news in the city, I heard many times that there was a strange woman in the Qin family. When I saw it today, it really lived up to its reputation. The cultivation base of the void return mirror is mere, and I don't know what serious illness I have, and my vitality is dim. But being able to talk eloquently in the face of her own Daoyuan two-layer environment is not something that ordinary girls can do at all. Looking at Qin Yu, the middle-aged man could not see any panic or fear in her eyes. The most important thing is that the middle-aged man can feel that Qin Yu's life is not long. But she didn't have the slightest sign of fear, her expression was indifferent. Even an octogenarian who had lived for hundreds of years, someone who saw through the world, might not be as indifferent as she was. The middle-aged man couldn't help giving Qin Yu a high look. Miss Yu's meaning of what she said just now, but you think the source crystals given are too little. Although the middle-aged man felt that Qin Yu was a bit good, he didn't take it to heart. It's just a young lady from a small family, she can only catch his eyes a little bit, and doesn't need to be treated too much. So after just exchanging pleasantries, he went straight to the topic, smiled and said, if that's the case, Miss Yu can give a psychological price. Although my Bafang sect is not a big sect, it is still affordable for hundreds of thousands of source crystals. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Yu continued coldly, you think this is a business? Can you still bargain? The middle-aged man looked embarrassed, and said with a dry smile, Miss Yu, what do you mean? Life is priceless. Qin Yu Zhao shouted. The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes, and his tone suddenly became colder. He said, Miss Yu, please explain clearly, I understand a little bit. He also gradually lost his patience. Although it was true that Lin Yun provoked this matter, as a powerhouse at the second level of Daoyuan, he lowered his posture so much, and even lowered his face to deal with it. He only hoped that the other party would know each other. Give everyone a step down, but unexpectedly, the old and the young in the Qin family can't make sense, and he looks unwilling to let it go, so he is naturally extremely annoyed. He felt that under the premise of a huge gap in strength, being able to negotiate with the other party in this way was already giving the other party a great deal of face, but the other party repeatedly toasted and refused to eat fine wine, which made him feel ashamed. Killing for life is justified. Qin Yu shouted in a low voice. What? The middle-aged man's face changed. He didn't expect that Qin Yu would really make such a ridiculous request. And Lin Yun jumped up in shock, shouting, little bitch, are you out of your mind? How dare you ask Ben Xiao to pay for his life? How can the life of a garbage maidservant compare with Ben Xiao? Do you think that? Keep your mouth clean. Did you eat poop? When Qin Zhaoyong heard that the little bastard dared to insult Qin Yu, he was furious and cursed back. Lin Yun laughed back angrily, kept nodding, and said, okay, everyone in this small family is more courageous than the sky, today I will teach you how to behave. While speaking, he actually urged Yuanli to show signs of making a move. Bastard! The middle-aged man suddenly yelled at Lin Yun, gritted his teeth and said, what do you want to do? Lin Yun was stunned, pointed at Qin Zhaoyong and Qin Yu and said, you also heard what they said just now, isn't it obvious what I want to do? The middle-aged man's face was as deep as water, and he whispered in a voice, it doesn't take much to kill them. Even if rumors spread afterwards, it will only be a face loss to the sect. It is impossible for anyone to stand up for this small family. Come to find trouble with our Bafangman. Then what are you worried about? Lin Yun couldn't figure it out, and didn't know why he stopped himself. Are you trying to alarm that person? Do you know what will happen to you if you alarm him? The middle-aged man looked at him coldly. Lin Yun's expression changed when he heard the words, that person, mentioned by the middle-aged man seemed to Lin Yun to be an extremely terrifying existence. Just hearing it made him turn blue and lose all momentum. This scene was imprinted in the eyes of Qin Yu and Qin Zhaoyong, and they didn't know what the two people from the Bafangman had secretly exchanged, which made Lin Yun calm down. Then the middle-aged man looked at Qin Yu, cupped his fists and said, Miss Yu, I can pretend you didn't hear the proposal just now, you can change it. Qin Yu coughed a few times, and said, I know, with the strength of my Qin family, I can't let you pay for your life. Miss Yu is indeed sensible. The middle-aged man smiled slightly, praising Qin Yu's wit. Qin Yu went on to say, but Xiaohuan is a servant of my Qin family, so she can't just die in an unknown way, and we can't help her avenge, so naturally I can't keep her enemy in the Qin family. You, let's go. As soon as this remark came out, everyone in the bafangmen was stunned on the spot, and all of them stared at Qin Yu with wide-eyed expressions. The middle-aged man was silent for a long time before he coughed dryly. What Miss Yu just said, what do you mean? Qin Yu said, don't you understand what I said? My Qin family won't entertain you anymore, but we will remember this enmity, and one day, we will avenge Xiaohuan. When she spoke, she looked directly at the other party, without any intention of dodging. The middle-aged man's expression became more and more cold, while the expressions of the other bafangmen disciples were not much better. The breeze blew in, making the smell of blood in the courtyard even stronger. The middle-aged man stared at Qin Yu sharply, and after a long silence, he opened his mouth and said, Miss Yu, are you serious? When he spoke, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly, as if he didn't expect the matter to develop to this point. If he was really driven out of the Qin family by Qin Yu, what would be the face of bafangmen? The most important thing is that if he is driven away, he will definitely startle the guy who made him extremely afraid. When the guy asks why, how will he explain it? You can't tell that guy that because Lin Yun accidentally killed a maidservant, and he couldn't take revenge, he didn't let us live and kicked us out. If he really said that, the middle-aged man would definitely end badly for himself and Lin Yun. That guy is not easy to talk to. Do you think I'm joking? Qin Yu bit her red lips lightly, without flinching. The middle-aged man suddenly closed his eyes, and said slowly, Miss Yu, can you be more accommodating on this matter? I can't leave the Qin family for the time being, and I can't tell you the reason. Before Qin Yu could speak, he suddenly raised a finger and said, 1 million source crystals. How about it? As soon as these words came out, Lin Yun and the others all changed their expressions, and said in a broken voice, Brother, are you serious? 1 million source crystals is not a small amount. Bafangmen is not considered a big sect, although this number is not unaffordable for Lin Yun and others, but it will hurt muscles and bones, so when it is not a last resort, they also unwilling to pay so much. Thinking of this, Lin Yun shouted, a servant, if you kill him, you will kill him. Why are there so many gossips? I will give you 100,000 source crystals. If you want to love me or not, we will not leave the Qin family. If you really have the ability, come to me for revenge at any time. To be continued. Chapter 2253. You guys are rogues. Qin Yu stomped his feet angrily. The Qin family was no match for others in strength. Naturally, it was impossible to use force to drive them away. If the bafangmen really wanted to stay forcibly, the Qin family has nothing to do with them. Fastest update visit. 80txt. It's just that what Qin Yu never expected was that the other party still has face when the conversation has come to this point. The degree of shamelessness is almost rare in life. Ha 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 ha. Lin Yun laughed loudly and said, so what if I am a scoundrel? Is Miss Yu going to teach me a lesson? If so, I will give you a chance, follow me. When the words fell, under the large crowd, he ran up to Qin Yu in a flash, and with one hand formed a claw, he grabbed Qin Yu's shoulder. The middle-aged man saw this scene, his expression moved, but he quickly closed his eyes, pretending not to see it. The Qin family's ignorance made him very annoyed, so he didn't bother to take care of it too much. He just felt that this small family would suffer a big loss before he knew what it means to know that there is a sky beyond the sky, and there are people beyond people. Go away, Qin Zhaoyong shouted suddenly. He was already beside Qin Yu, and seeing Lin Yun coming towards Qin Yu, how could he sit idly by? The big hand of steel cracking stone pushed forward, the source force in the palm of that hand was as fierce as a tsunami, it was obvious that it had used all its strength as soon as it came up. Lin Yun sneered and said, the old guy doesn't know the heights of the heavens and the earth, so you want to stop me? As he spoke, he did not dodge or dodge, and directly turned his claws into palms, and moved towards Qin Chaoyong's big handprint. A force of yin, softly, swayed away, and Lin Yun's whole body seemed to turn into a poisonous snake at this moment, swallowing the snake's core and choosing to eat it. Qin Zhaoyong's complexion changed, realizing that if this palm is received firmly, there will be no good end for him. After all, he is already old and frail. Although he has the realm of Daoyuan, his real strength cannot be compared with the peak period. But the other party is young and energetic, and has a cultivation base of the second level of Daoyuan, which is simply not something he can compete with. But Qin Yu's safety was concerned. Even though he knew he would be injured, Qin Zhaoyong didn't flinch, his eyes flashed fiercely. The source of energy all over his body was mobilized fiercely, and the already violent palm gesture became more and more ferocious. Overestimating one's abilities. Lin Yun clicked his tongue, shook his head slowly, and smiled teasingly. Bump a euro. The two palms touched, and there was a fierce collision of source force. Shooting in all directions, a strong wind was blown up, and sand and stones flew in the courtyard in an instant. However, a shocking scene happened. At the moment when the two sides were fighting each other, Lin Yun's body was shaken, and then his face changed drastically. After a scream, he flew upside down, bleeding in the air. Super many good-looking novels directly smashed into the back wing, smashing a big hole in the wall. Rumbling. There were continuous knocking sounds in the wing room. It seemed that Lin Yun couldn't control the castration. It looks like it smashed a lot of things. What? The middle-aged man and a few people from Bafang's gate all stared at this unimaginable scene blankly. The guards of the Qin family, who were originally worried and sympathetic to the enemy, were equally shocked, but soon, all of them were overjoyed. Cheers burst out. Old ancestor, you. Qin Yuchao's face was full of bewilderment, although she couldn't see Lin Yun's real realm with her cultivation. But she could feel that Lin Yun was much stronger than the ancestor. But why under one move? The ancestor actually repelled the opponent. This is simply impossible. Qin Zhaoyong was also stunned. He had already prepared himself for injury just now, and he also planned to risk his life to keep Qin Yu safe if the other party still refused to let it go. No matter what, he couldn't just sit back and watch Qin Yu being captured and humiliated by Lin Yun. But the final result surprised him very much. But soon, he seemed to realize something, and turned his head to look. The next moment, a smiling face appeared in front of Qin Zhaoyong's eyes. This man's hand was resting on his back, and from that hand, a pure and vigorous the source of power, poured in. Repelling Lin Yunji's forces obviously because of this person's secret help. Qin Zhaoyong's eyes widened in an instant, and he said with great joy, Brother Yang. He found that the one who quietly helped him behind his back was none other than Yang Kai, who had never returned to Fenggulan City. Ah! Qin Yu was startled when he heard the words, followed Qin Zhaoyong's gaze, and when he saw Yang Kai, he couldn't help covering his red lips with his small hand, and tremblingly said, Master Yang. Who? The middle-aged man from Bafang's sect finally came back to his senses, let out a loud shout, looked at Yang Kai with an unkind expression, his face sank like water, and said, Who are you, who dare to secretly use poisonous hands to hurt me from Bafang's sect, disciple? Bafang, sect. Yang Kai raised his eyebrows when he heard the words, and glanced at the middle-aged man in surprise, then looked at the disciples of the Bafang sect, but he didn't see the person he was looking for. Disappointed. Are you disciples of the Bafang door? It's guaranteed to be fake. The middle-aged man saw Yang Kai's appearance of having heard the name of the door for a long time, and suddenly became confident. Who is your excellency? When he was speaking, the middle-aged man also had a dazed look on his face. For some reason, he always looked at Yang Kai with a kind face, as if he had vaguely seen it somewhere, but when he thought about it carefully, he couldn't remember it. He sternly said, No matter who you are, if you hurt my disciples from all directions, if you don't give a proper explanation today, don't even think about leaving. What he said was full of confidence, because he swept away his spiritual sense and found that Yang Kai only had a Daoyuan first-level cultivation base, and he didn't pay attention to this kind of cultivation base. It's just that he didn't know what secret technique the other party used just now, and he joined forces with Qin Chaoyong to knock Lin Yun away, but now it seems that the secret technique the other party used should be the kind that can work together, and Lin Yun also temporarily. I was careless, so I accidentally got hit. Huo. Yang Kai looked at the middle-aged man in surprise, and said, I really didn't know that the disciples of your Bafang sect are so powerful. People who don't know think you are from the Star God Palace woolen cloth. Yang Kai's words were sarcasm, making the middle-aged man's face turn blue and turn white. He gritted his teeth and said, Stop talking nonsense, and you will be arrested obediently. Let him go, otherwise don't blame me for being merciless. Yang Kai looked at him with a strange expression, and said, Do I know you? I don't know what kind of relationship to talk about. It's really interesting. When he was speaking, he turned his head to look at Qin Yu, and said in a low voice, "Is there something wrong with this man's head?" Seeing his mischievous appearance, Qin Yu couldn't help but chuckle. Qin Zhaoyang frowned, although he also knew that Yang Kai was not easy to deal with, otherwise he would not have given him the place to enter the land of 4 seasons that day, but now that the opponent has a lot of people, he doesn't know if Yang Kai can settle with this matter in front of him, he couldn't help but feel a little worried. "Boy, you are looking for death," the middle-aged man shouted angrily. "Stop yelling." Yang Kai looked at him with disgust, "It's shameful." After finishing speaking, regardless of the other party's reaction, he looked at Qin Chaoyang and said, "What's going on here? I just arrived not long ago, and I only heard you say 1 million source crystals, explain it to me." He was telling the truth. After getting the disaster from the Qingyang temple, Yang Kai rushed to Fenggalan City non-stop, but just entered the city, he felt that there was something wrong with Fenggalan City, it seemed that there was a lot more strong breath. After rushing to Qin's house, he happened to see the scene where Qin Yu was chasing people away. He didn't know what was going on, so he hid in the dark and observed secretly. It wasn't until Lin Yun made a move that he had no choice but to show up to help Qin Zhaoyang. Hearing this, Qin Zhaoyang gave the middle-aged man a resentful look, and briefly explained what had happened before. After Yang Kai listened, he was silent for a long time, then he looked up at the middle-aged man, and said, "So, the matter is probably like this, the Qin family is good to entertain you, but the servant was beaten by one of you in the end. Not only did you not have the slightest remorse, you didn't even admit your mistakes, but relying on the power of the crowd, you even wanted to occupy the magpie's nest, and even kidnapped Miss Qin." The middle-aged man couldn't help being silent, speechless. Because what Yang Kai said is indeed true. Tisk tisk, such bullying men and women is simply outrageous. Yang Kai was extremely contemptuous. The middle-aged man took a deep breath and said, "I also said that I would like to use 1 million source crystals to calm things down, but they don't know how to flatter them." "Okay." Yang Kai raised his brows, "According to what my friend said, killing someone with 1 million source crystals can be settled, right? If others don't accept it, it means they don't know how to flatter them." While speaking, he suddenly raised his hand. In an instant, a hill of source crystals piled up in the courtyard. There are so many source crystals, you don't need to count them, but you know that they are at least tens of millions. The origins of these people from Bafangmen are not considered shabby, and they were dazzled for a while, and they all swallowed their saliva, wishing to take that pile of hills as their own. Qin Chaoyang and the others were stunned, not knowing what Yang Kai was going to do. Come. Yang Kai enthusiastically greeted everyone from all directions, with a bright smile on his face. "You're welcome, everyone gets 1 million source crystals, don't take too much and don't take too little." Quote. At this point, he changed the subject, the smile on his face turned into a sneer in an instant, and he said in a low tone, "After I'm done, I'll send you on your way." Tang tang tang. All the people from the Bafang gate retreated a few steps back, looking at Yang Kai with horrified faces, and one of them even shouted, "Are you kidding me? All those source crystals are good, they must be enjoyed by life. If you lose your life, what's the use of taking more source crystals?" The middle-aged man's face was ashen. When it came to this matter, how could he not know what Yang Kai wanted to do? He clearly wanted to use his own way to deal with his own body. After understanding this, he couldn't help sneering, and said, "I don't think your excellency looks like a member of the Qin family. Do you have to get involved in this muddy water? Your excellency, if we leave here, we might as well be friends." "Who cares about being friends with you?" Yang Kai twitched his mouth and said, "If you ask you to take it, give it to me, but don't know how to flatter you." Middle-aged and angry, he said sharply, "It seems that we have nothing to say." Chapter 2254. You are noisy. The sword rushes to Yangguan, and it's freezing for 9 days. The middle-aged man was also a decisive person. Seeing that there was no room for maneuver, he raised a snow-white long sword leisurely. A chill fell from the sky, as if the chill could invade the depths of the soul and freeze the soul. When everyone in the Bafangmen saw him using this move, their faces changed slightly and they retreated. Obviously, the power of this move is not trivial. But Qin Chaoyang hurriedly protected Qin Yu. With a single step, he floated back more than a dozen feet, and those Qin family guards and servants also ran away in an instant, so as not to be affected by Qiu. With sword intent and sword energy, the middle-aged man shook his wrist, his body wrapped in the sword light, and shot straight towards Yang Kai. Wherever he passed, the air was frozen into ice. Ha 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 ha. Yang Kai stood on the spot, grinning grinningly, looking at the menacing opponent with contempt, but he didn't have the slightest intention to dodge. Seeing him being so condescending, the middle-aged man couldn't help but thump in his heart, and a vaguely unpleasant feeling lingered in his heart, as if something terrible was about to happen. Just because you dare to be so presumptuous in front of me. Yang Kai's sinister smile turned into a sneer, his figure suddenly blurred when he moved his feet, and when he reappeared, he had already forced himself in front of the middle-aged man and stretched out a finger per mil point forward. On the fingertips, a golden light suddenly appeared, which was the purest and richest source power. Clang a euro. With a soft sound, the middle-aged man's face changed wildly, his eyes widened and he stood in midair, watching in horror that his blow with all his strength was blocked by a finger of the opponent. What made him feel desperate was that the opponent's flesh and blood finger was actually stronger than the secret treasure, and it was not damaged at all. On the contrary, the force that shot out from the fingertip bent his long sword. Lost mind. Under the shock of the sword body, the icy mood suddenly melted away. How is it possible? The middle-aged man exclaimed in surprise, his eyes almost popping out. He unceasingly released his divine sense to check Yang Kai's cultivation, and found that the other party was indeed only at the first level of Daoyuan, a small level lower than himself. But this force coming from the opposite side is definitely not what a Daoyuan first-level warrior should possess. The power to overthrow the three views made him completely messed up, and he felt that he might have kicked the iron plate this time. It's not bad to call Luo Yuan out, you still have something to look at. When Yang Kai spoke, he snorted coldly, the source force on his fingertips suddenly increased a lot, golden light flashed, and he pushed forward all of a sudden. You know junior brother Luo? The middle-aged man was shocked and looked at Yang Kai in horror. A strange color flashed in his eyes, and he exclaimed suddenly, you are Yang Kai. You are the Yang Kai from the land of 4 seasons. He seemed to remember something, and screamed in his mouth. As soon as the words fell, the golden light engulfed him, and the middle-aged man let out a miserable cry, and fell directly to the ground, smashing the ground into a hole, in an extremely embarrassing situation. Yang Kai, that Yang Kai in the land of 4 seasons. That's right, it's him, definitely him. Why do I look so familiar? Down below, several disciples of Bafangman shouted loudly, all of them looked flustered. It was only at this moment that they finally recognized Yang Kai. After all, in the land of 4 seasons, Yang Kai threatened everyone with the etheric miraculous pill. When looking for people to exchange for useful things, these people also watched from afar. It's just that Luo Yuan was beside Yang Kai at that time, they didn't dare to get too close, so they didn't recognize him at first sight today. It wasn't until the middle-aged man had a flash of inspiration that they realized Yang Kai's identity. For a while, everyone was sweating profusely and their faces were pale. Although they have never fought against Yang Kai, they are all aware of what happened in the land of 4 seasons. Stronger than impermanence, there is no way for Luo Yuan and others to do anything to Yang Kai, let alone them. This time, the opening of the land of 4 seasons has achieved the prestige of 2 rising stars. One is Bafangman Luiyuan. This person is head-on to challenge the impermanence of the Tianwu Holy Land without losing the wind. The fight is evenly matched, which has proved his impressive strength. And the other person is Yang Kai. Only Daoyuan first-level cultivation base, but also a Daoyuan-level alchemist, refining the great treasure pill, and playing with all the strong people in the land of the 4 seasons in the palm of his hand. It can be said that even if the reputations of these 2 rising stars are not as good as those of Sha Shang, Wuchang, and Xiao Chen, they are not far behind. This is also the reason why other families in Fenggalan City have 2 or 3 sect disciples moving in, while the Qin family only has 1 Bafang sect. Because Luo Yuan is here, how could those warriors from the sect want to provoke this evil star? He is not even afraid of impermanence, who else in this world can make him afraid except the emperor-level powerhouse? Ahem. The middle-aged man from Bafangman was forced to retreat by Yang Kai. Although he was injured, he was not serious. After standing up quickly, he looked at Yang Kai with fear, gritted his teeth, and clasped his fists and said, so it's Yang Kai. Master, I was blind before and forgot about Master Yang, don't take offense. His cultivation base is higher than Yang Kai, and he is older than Yang Kai. It is natural to hurt his face to call him Lord Yang Kai. Yang Kai is afraid that he will not be happy to call him a brother, worthy of this title. What? Qin Chaoyang froze for a moment, looking at the middle-aged man in astonishment, not knowing why this guy was so arrogant before. how he became respectful in a blink of an eye, and called Yang Kai a master. There was a strange light in Qin Yu's beautiful eyes, as if he was thinking. What's so strange? Yang Kai grinned. Master Yang has a lot. The middle-aged man's expression brightened. Yang Kai changed the topic, and said coldly, there is nothing to care about with the dead. The joy on the middle-aged man's face suddenly froze, and a chill hit the soles of his feet from his head, making him feel as if he had fallen into a cellar of ice. He hurriedly said in a shy voice, Master Yang, what happened today is indeed my junior brother Lin's fault. It's his fault. Yang Kai snorted coldly. But Master Yang, for the sake of my junior brother Lin having been taught a lesson, give him a chance to reform himself. He pleaded earnestly. Murder pays for life, I just knocked him out, is this considered a lesson? Yang Kai sneered, other people's lives are so cheap to you. Seeing that he was unmoved, the middle-aged man couldn't help sweating from his forehead. He didn't know whether it was from anxiety or pain, and he gritted his teeth and said, so that Master Yang will know that junior brother Lin Yun, is Lin Yun, the deputy head of our sect. Rui's nephew. He moved Lin Rui out in the hope that Yang Kai would be able to cast a trap and sell him a face. Unexpectedly, Yang Kai sneered, and said, who is Lin Rui, it's none of my business. The middle-aged man's face turned pale, and he realized that today's affairs really couldn't be bettered. Anyway, I have to kill someone today, either you or the guy who fainted. Yang Kai flicked his wrist, and the million sword was born leisurely, and the infinite emperors will fill the air instantly, and the unique emperor's rhyme and sword fluctuations seemed to be calming. A boulder was dropped on the lake, causing ripples to spread in all directions. He pointed at the middle-aged man with the wide $1,000,000 sword, and said, choose one yourself. As he spoke, he raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and sneered, or do you want to die in place of that guy? That guy is the nephew of your deputy sect master, if you die in his place, maybe your deputy sect master will take good care of your family. I. The middle-aged man backed away incessantly, speaking incoherently, staring at the million sword in Yang Kai's hand tremblingly. Although he had never seen Emperor Treasure before, he felt it at this moment. He also knew that Yang Kai was not joking with the long sword in his hand. He could clearly see the murderous intent in Yang Kai's eyes, which was as thick as substance. It's just, although Lin Yun's status is not low in Bafangmen, how can he agree to let him die on behalf of others? If you don't choose, then I will decide for myself. Yang Kai snorted, then looked at Qin Chaoyang and said, Patriarch Qin, they killed a member of your clan, and I will kill him with the secret treasure of the Qin family, which is also considered the Qin family. Take revenge yourself, okay. Okay. Qin Zhaoyang yelled heavily, I'm sorry, brother Yang. Yang Kai nodded slightly, and with a move of the million sword, just as he was about to use his killing move, he suddenly looked up at the sky, and said, since you're here, come out, what are you doing sneakily? Is there anyone else? Qin Zhaoyang's complexion changed, and he quickly looked in that direction, but saw that there was nothing there, and he couldn't help but look suspicious. But at this moment, there was a ripple in the void, and two figures suddenly appeared ghostly. These two figures, a man and a woman, the man is a young man with an indifferent expression, as if nothing is on his mind, his expression is cold, the woman is petite and cute, with a round face, standing quietly behind the young man, her pair of beautiful eyes are always on the young man's tall and straight back, it seemed that in her eyes, there was nothing else in this world except the young man in front of her. It's him. Qin Zhaoyang's expression darkened. He naturally recognized that this man and woman were all disciples of the Bafang sect. They came to the Qin family with the middle-aged man, Lin Yun and others that day, and the people of the Bafang sect followed this young man. It's just that this young man has stayed behind closed doors since he lived in Qin's house. He heard from his servants that he has been practicing hard and has never let up in the slightest. Qin Chaoyang also knew that this person was called Luo Yuan, and he was a rising star who had shined with Yang Kai in the land of 4 seasons. And that round-faced woman seemed to be the daughter of the head of Bafang sect. She had a special liking for Luo Yuan, and she had been guarding the courtyard where he retreated, never leaving her. It's a pity that Luo Hua intends to be ruthless. Looking at her posture, Luo Yuan doesn't seem to care about her at all. Junior brother Luo, Missy. The middle-aged man couldn't help being overjoyed and exclaimed when he saw these two people appearing, but soon he seemed to think of something again, and his face became panicked. Luo Yuan glanced at him lightly, frowned and said, you guys are very noisy. As soon as these words came out, the members of the bafangmen were all silent, their faces turned pale, as if they were extremely afraid of Luo Yuan. To be continued. Chapter 2255 Satisfied. High-speed full-text online reading. The fact is indeed true, in bafangmen, everyone is afraid of Luo Yuan, not only them, even the head and deputy head of the door are afraid of him. The head of the sect said that Luo Yuan is an eccentric talent that never emerges for 10,000 years, and one day he will be famous in the star field and proud of the sky, so the entire Bafang sect is almost responsive to Luo Yuan's request, and entrusts all hopes of revitalizing the sect on Luo Yuan. When he was in Zhongnei on weekdays, Luo Yuan's words were equivalent to the words of the suzerain. He occupied the best cave and had nearly half of the cultivation resources of the entire bafangmen. When he was practicing, no one dared to disturb him, otherwise he would die. This is also the biggest reason why the people from the bafangmen wanted to calm things down. They didn't dare to disturb Luo Yuan. But he didn't expect it, and he was shocked in the end. For a moment, the Bafang sect members were both surprised and happy. What surprised them was that Luo Yuan was in a bad mood at the moment, and didn't know if they would be punished. What made them happy was that a powerful helper came, and now they might be able to get out of trouble. Ah, it's you. At this time, the round-faced woman who had been standing behind Luo Yuan came back to her senses, her obsessed eyes left Luo Yuan, she frowned and looked around, and when she saw Yang Kai, she couldn't help but let out a coquettish cry, "You are that." She couldn't remember Yang Kai's name for a while. Yang Kai smiled slightly and said, "Yang Kai. That's right, you're the guy who exchanged a too wonderful, a trademark, a paragraph mark, a trademark, see, a trademark, a degree, a trademark, say, Dan, why are you here?" The round-faced woman said to Yang Kai obviously has some memories. "Why can't I be here?" Yang Kai felt a little funny. The round-faced woman tilted her head and thought for a while, and seemed to feel that the question she asked was a bit ridiculous, and after smiling slightly at Yang Kai, she stopped talking. And Luo Yuan's gaze was locked on Yang Kai, and infinite fighting intent suddenly flickered in those originally plain eyes. Yang Kai grinned. "How long have you been here?" Luo Yuan said indifferently, "Just came." After a pause, he added, "I woke up because of the secret treasure Yun in your hand. Then I saw that you wanted to kill my Bafang sect disciple." His tone was flat, but anyone could hear the displeasure and coldness in his words. In any case, he is also a member of the Bafang sect. If someone wants to kill a disciple of the Bafang sect, he naturally cannot sit idly by. The middle-aged man was overjoyed, and hurriedly shouted, "Junior brother Luo. This person relied on some abilities and didn't pay attention to my bafangmen. He not only knocked out junior brother Lin Yun, but also injured me. He also asked junior brother Luo to avenge us." Avenge. He changed his submissive attitude towards Yang Kai before, and became extremely arrogant, as if he hugged his thick thighs, his sense of security doubled, and he no longer needed to worry about Yang Kai. "Really?" Luo Yuan raised his eyebrows. Looking at Yang Kai coldly, he asked. Yang Kai smiled and said, "That's right, I knocked out the one lying there, and I also injured the person who spoke." "Very good, be brave." Luo Yuan raised his lips, "That's what a man should do, I appreciate you." Brother Luo is going to stand up for them. Yang Kai looked at him with a smile. "A secret technique I've comprehended has reached a bottleneck, and I can't figure it out after many days of comprehension." Luo Yuan suddenly talked about an irrelevant topic. But the scorching fighting intent in those eyes became more ferocious and surging when he spoke. The strength in his body trembled, and he shouted in a low voice, "I am worried that I will not be able to find an opponent in this remote area. Since Brother Yang is here, please help me. You want to use my strength to break through the bottleneck of the secret technique." Yang Kai looked at him with a strange expression. "Exactly, why should I help you?" Yang Kai groaned, "This is a loss-making business. I won't do it." "You have no choice." Luo Yuan snorted coldly, stepping on the void, approaching Yang Kai step by step. Every time he took a step, his aura would rise a bit. Look at his posture. Regardless of whether Yang Kai agrees or not, he is going to make a move. Yang Kai frowned. Luo Yuan is no better than the general Daoyuan realm, not to mention that he is already a strong man in the Daoyuan third-layer realm. His sturdy combat power alone should not be underestimated. If it is not necessary, Yang Kai is not willing to fight with him. This kind of people fight, Not to mention, this is still the Qin family. If there is a fight, the Qin family's 1/3 of an acre of land may be destroyed, and it may even affect Qin and others. He is no less unscrupulous than Luo Yuan, and acts without fear. Stop. At this moment, Qin Yu suddenly shouted coquettishly. Luo Yuan paused, a look of displeasure flashed across his face, and he shouted in a low voice, "Who are you? What's the matter?" There was murderous intent on his face. It seemed that he was extremely unhappy because of being interrupted by Qin Yu. If it hadn't been suppressed, he might have killed someone. Qin Yu said, "The Qin family." Luo Yuan frowned, his murderous intent quickly stopped, and he said to himself, "Is the master here?" A look of helplessness flashed across his face, and he pondered for a long time before he said, "I wonder what orders you have." He changed his previous murderous look, and became gentle and polite, and Yang Kai was amazed. "Don't dare to give orders. You are so powerful. My Qin family is single and weak, so how dare I have any orders?" Qin Yu said in a sarcasm, with guns and sticks in his words, "It's just that you Bafang sect disciples killed my Qin family's servants. Do you want to give me an explanation to the Qin family first? Kill your servant of the Qin family?" Luo Yuan's face turned cold when he heard this. "Is there such a thing? The corpse is still here, are you blind?" Qin Yu gritted his teeth and drank. Luo Yuan's eyes then turned to the female corpse in the courtyard, and after frowning for a while, he looked at the middle-aged man and said, "What's going on?" The middle-aged man looked flustered, and he didn't know how to answer. His tone was agitated, and he couldn't tell why. "I'll count to 3, if you don't dare to answer, you know the consequences." Luo Yuan's face turned colder, and after he finished speaking, he started counting. 1. The middle-aged man suddenly trembled like he was sifting through the chaff. How dare he hide anything? He immediately told the whole thing. After Luo Yuan listened, he said thoughtfully, "So, the reason why Brother Yang took action is because of this?" "Yes, yes." The middle-aged man glanced at Yang Kai, nodded and admitted, and didn't dare to pour dirty water on Yang Kai again. "I understand." When Luo Yuan spoke, his body flickered, and he rushed into the wing room, waiting for him to come out again. Impressively carrying the fainted Lin Yun in his hand. Yang Kai looked at him with interest, and didn't know how Luo Yuan was going to deal with Lin Yun, and what explanation he could give to the Qin family. "Miss Qin." Luo Yuan looked at Qin Yu and said calmly, "He killed him. If that's the case, then you'll be fine." The words fell. With a push of the source force in his hand, he poured it into Lin Yun's body frantically. In an instant, Lin Yun's whole body swelled up, and his exposed skin turned blood red. Seeing this scene, Yang Kai shrank his eyes and secretly became shocked. And the faces of the Bafangman and the others were ashen-colored, and the middle-aged man even cried out, "Junior brother Luo, don't do it." And under the severe pain, Lin Yun also slowly woke up from the coma, as if he was still a little dazed. Not knowing exactly what happened, he opened his eyes and saw Luo Yuan. His face turned pale with shock, and he whispered, "Luo. Senior brother Luo." Luo Yuan responded casually, and the strength in his hand increased again. "Ah!" Lin Yun suddenly screamed, and realized that something was wrong, and exclaimed, Don't. Bump a euro. With a bang, Lin Yun exploded in Luo Yuan's hands. There were no bones left, and the sky was filled with flesh and bone fragments. Although Luo Yuan stood nearby, he was spotless. Up and down the courtyard, there was no sound. A group of people from the Qin family completely stayed where they were. Bafangman and others looked at each other in awe, not daring to take a breath. No one expected that Luo Yuan would kill Lin Yun so simply and neatly. Aren't they fellow apprentices? Isn't Lin Yun the nephew of the deputy head of Bafangman? Everyone was treated cold-blooded and cruel by Luo Yuan, shocked by the inhuman, unscrupulous brutality. Miss Qin thinks that this treatment is still satisfactory. Luo Yuan looked at Qin Yu and asked. Qin Yu gritted his teeth and said, "Satisfied. The murderer just died in front of her eyes, what else could she say? Kill for life." Luo Yuan did, so she was speechless. Just be satisfied. Luo Yuan nodded slightly, regardless of what other people thought, looked at Yang Kai again, and said, "Brother Yang, let's start." Yang Kai's face was full of black lines, and said, "What to start? What is there to start? Can you be quiet? You fight and kill all day, what are you doing?" Qin Chaoyang thought that Yang Kai was afraid of Luo Yuan, so he jumped out to smooth things over, saying, "Brother Luo, since the murderer has already been executed, why not let the old man be the host today? Everyone sit down and have a good chat." Luo Yuan ignored him, looked at Yang Kai and said, Brother Yang, you are very disappointing. What about your arrogance in the land of 4 seasons? How do you reach the pinnacle of martial Dao when you are so timid? What kind of martial arts is going to what peak? Yang Kai curled his lips for a while. I'm only at the first level of Daoyuan, so it's too early to say these words. You can go as far as you can see. Luo Yuan said, Brother Yang, you shouldn't be so short-sighted. Yang Kai said seriously, wrong, big mistake. Luo Yuan said unexpectedly, what's wrong? Yang Kai Dao, I think being a human being takes one step at a time, being down to earth, and thinking too much is easy to get too high. Luo Yuan frowned, and said, if there is no lofty goal, how can there be motivation to move forward? He looked as if he wanted to have a good discussion with Yang Kai. Yang Kai said impatiently, it's not speculative, so why should you go? I want to fight Brother Yang right now. You haven't finished yet. Yang Kai jumped up immediately, what's the point of you fighting with me? With the magical powers I have mastered, can you touch the corner of my clothes? Luo Yuan was stunned, and suddenly remembered that Yang Kai seemed to be proficient in the secret art of space. In the land of 4 seasons, surrounded by many powerful people, the reason why he was so calm and relaxed was because of his knowledge of space. Under Emperor Zun's control, no one can contain his actions. Fighting with Yang Kai, he really might not be able to touch the corner of the opponent's clothes. Don't hide, just. Luo Yuan thought for a while and said, let's have a passionate, bloody collision between men. Everyone was in a cold sweat. Yang Kaishu looked at him and sneered, are you stupid in cultivation? Why don't I hide when I have supernatural powers? To be continued. Chapter 2256. Shut up. The round-faced woman who had been standing behind Luo Yuan suddenly frowned, and shouted at Yang Kai, don't speak ill of senior brother Luo. Brother Yang. Luo Yuan looked at Yang Kai and shouted, let's fight. Yang Kai slapped himself on the face, feeling that he really had nothing to say to this guy. At this moment, the mutation reappeared. Accompanied by the sound of piercing through the air, many strong figures suddenly appeared in all directions. When these strong men arrived, they all turned their attention to the million sword in Yang Kai's hand. The eyes are revealed, and the meaning of greed is shining on the face. They were obviously alarmed by Emperor Bao's imperial will, so they came to check it from the dormant place, and they were naturally coveted after seeing it now. These people who came here are basically from the 3rd level of Daoyuan, and there is no one who is strong in the Emperor Senior realm. Even if a warrior of this level sees the Emperor treasure occasionally, it is just a glimpse, and they have never really owned it. But now, an Emperor treasure appeared in the small Fengalan city, and it was a sword-shaped Emperor treasure mainly for killing. Divine sense swept again. Realizing that Yang Kai was only at the Dao Source 1st stage, he couldn't help showing joy on his face. Suddenly so many people came, Luo Yuan couldn't help frowning, showing displeasure on his face. Urged by the source force, a wave of energy visible to the naked eye swayed leisurely, taking his own the place where it is located as the center, and the ground radiates to the surroundings. Get out, he yelled loudly, annoyed that these idlers came to disturb him in Yang Kai's duel. Tang tang tang, people who come here, no matter how high or low they are, or how old they are all intimidated by this power and aura. At least a dozen steps back, at most a few tens of feet, everyone's face was ashen. Not to mention Luo Yuan's recent rise to fame, everyone basically recognizes him, even if they don't. Seeing the power he displayed at this moment, he can also know that he is not an ordinary Daoyuan 3rd layer realm, so how dare he stroke a tiger's beard. But there were 2 people standing in place, motionless. These 2 are 2 old men, one of them closed his eyes and meditated. Letting the coercion blow over his face and turning a deaf ear to it, one person's eyes glistened, and he sneered continuously, as if mocking Luo Yuan's overreaching. These 2 people are the 2 great protectors of Feixiong Palace. Previously, the 2 protectors were still in the city lord's mansion, protecting the young palace master Ning Yuenshu, but when the emperor's treasure suddenly appeared and the emperor's charm permeated, the 2 of them noticed it. After asking Ning Yuenshu for instructions, they rushed over here in a hurry. Yui came here just in time to meet Luo, the scene where Yuan went crazy. Young man, don't be so angry. Guardian Flowing Water looked at Luo Yuan with a smile. A posture of relying on the old to sell the old, it's easy to hurt your body when you get angry. HMPH. Guardian Gao Shan also opened his eyes at this moment, and snorted coldly, young people nowadays. They are all people who don't know the heights of the sky and the earth. Only after a big somersault will it converge. €. What the two seniors said is too reasonable. Yang Kai looked at the two of them, rolled his eyes, and looked like he was being taught, while pointing his head like a chicken pecking rice. While facing the high mountains and rivers, he clasped his fists far away, and said, "Senior's motto." This junior agrees deeply, and can say such a thing. You two are not ordinary people. It's easy to say. Lu Shui looked at Yang Kai with a smile, and found that this kid looked quite pleasing to the eye. A child can be taught, and he will become a master in the future. Gao Shan also praised him. Dare to ask the surnames of the two seniors. Yang Kai humbly asked for advice. Old man Takayama, old man is flowing water. The two of them each answered a sentence, reported their families, door, and then said in unison, "We are the two guardians of Feixiang Palace." Their lines seemed to have been rehearsed many times, and they spoke extremely skillfully without any pause. Feixiang Palace. Yang Kai's face changed slightly, and he said in surprise, "It turns out that the two seniors are well-known guardians of the mountains and rivers in the southern region." Seeing Yang Kai's appearance, the high mountains and flowing water are more and more useful. The former smiled slightly and said, "Have you heard of our two names?" "I've heard more than that." Yang Kai said nonsense seriously, "It's like the sound of thunder, rolling over the ears, deafening." Ha 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 ha. Gao Shan and Liu Shui looked at each other, and his mouth could hardly close his smile. Everyone was sweating profusely, despising Yang Kai's flattery, shameless and shameless. At the same time, everyone is also extremely despising these two old idiots, Gao Shan and Liu Shui. They have lived a long time, and their cultivation is also at the third level of Daoyuan. What are the names of my parents, and why are the two guardians of Feixiang Palace so virtuous? Everyone seemed to be acquainted with mountains and rivers for the first time. They looked sideways frequently, and their expressions were brilliant. However, Yang Kai's expression darkened suddenly, and he stopped talking. "But what?" Gao Shan frowned, looking at Yang Kai suspiciously. Yang Kai laughed dryly, and replied, "But it seems that some people don't take the two seniors seriously. Before you came here, the junior just heard some remarks that are not good for you too." "Huh, who dares not to take the old man seriously?" Gao Shan was furious, and looked around coldly. All the martial artists who were targeted by them had their eyes flickering and turned their eyes away. Although these two old idiots are a bit stupid, their strength is obvious to all. Otherwise, they would not be able to occupy the city lord's mansion. Anyone who dares to compete with them for the city lord's mansion. "It's you." Gao Shan suddenly stared at a middle-aged man with erratic eyes, and asked sharply, with a bad expression on his face. "No, no, no." The middle-aged man quickly waved his hands, cold sweat broke out on his forehead, and explained, "I am here one step later than you two, how can you speak ill of you two?" Hearing the words, Gao Shan didn't doubt that there was him, and then looked at another person and said, "Is it you?" "There is absolutely no such thing. I have admired the two of you for a long time, how could you act like this?" The person being watched said seriously. "Who is it? Who dares to do this? The old man must teach him to be a man." Lu Shui was also very angry, staring at Yang Kai and asked. Yang Kai was in awe of I, wanting to catch him and said, "The junior dare not say. The junior's strength is low, and if I say it, I am afraid that I will be killed and silenced." "Say, don't be afraid, there are two old men to protect you. Who has the guts? Who dares to hurt you? The old man will kill 18 generations of his family. If you have senior's words, then I can rest assured." Yang Kai immediately beamed with joy, pointed his hand, and shouted, "It's him, it's this kid." He said it when the two seniors didn't come, and now he is here in this Fenggalan city. The most powerful mountains and rivers are nothing more than ants and grasshoppers in his eyes. He can crush them to death with just a finger. Hey, it is said that none of the warriors in it were raised by their parents, they were all from what? Gao Shan looked furious, his clothes rattled automatically without wind. The junior still doesn't say it, it's ugly, anyway, that's what it means. Yang Kai laughed. Wow, Gao Shan burst into anger and yelled, "I'm so angry." Okay. Lu Shui also glared at the person Yang Kai pointed at, sneered and said, "The young man is indeed louder than the sky, I want to see how you stretch out your fingers to crush the old man to death." Quote. Luo Yuan frowned slightly, looked at Yang Kai and said, "Are you referring to me?" Yang Kai shouted loudly, "Luo Yuan, if you are a man, you dare to be brave." Don't you want to admit what you said? The second elder of Gaoshan Liushui is here now. If you have the guts, repeat what you just said, and see if the second elder is right. Can kill you. I understand. Luo Yuan nodded slightly, and after saying a word, he didn't mean to explain. Seeing that he didn't deny it, Gaoshan Liushui felt that what Yang Kai said was true. Gaoshan suddenly said angrily, young people think they are invincible after they have achieved some fame, don't they? You must know that in this world there are heavens beyond the sky, and there are people beyond people. Your morals and deeds are far from enough. Why are you talking nonsense with him? If you dare to insult us, today is a capital offense. Lu Shui snorted coldly, looked at Luo Yuan and said, boy, do you want to poke your neck by yourself, or do you want the two of you to go over and take your head off? Lita Euros just say it first. If Ida Euros the former, you can save yourself a little bit of suffering. If Ida Euros the latter, hey hehe Euro maybe you a Euro LL be tortured. A Euro. Hearing what Lu Shui said, Yang Kai immediately beamed with joy, feeling that his plan to lure the water to the east has been more than half successful. Sure enough, as he expected, a person as proud as Luo Yuan would be indifferent to such threatening words, not to mention that he never said those words just now. Even if he did, he would definitely not compromise at this moment. But when he raised his eyebrows, his face showed an unruly look, his whole body trembled slightly, and he said with a grinning smile, the two old bastards also want to take my life. Do you have the ability? You're still so rampant when you're about to die, boy, let me attack you first. Gao Shan was furious, and immediately stretched out his big hand, and patted the place where Luo Yuan was standing. All of a sudden, there was a storm in the sky, and the power of the law of heaven and earth surged up and down, and a huge palm print was taken in the air, covering the light of the sky and earth, and covering Luo Yuan. All the onlookers did not change their colors. After all, Gao Shan is also the elder of Feixiang Palace. He has a solid Daoyuan third-layer cultivation base, and his attack is naturally extraordinary. Everyone is thinking about how to defend and dodge this move if it comes at him. Thinking about it, his complexion became ugly, because everyone found that besides dodging this move, the consequences would be unimaginable. On the other side, Luo Yuan stood there, neither dodging nor evading, as if he was frightened out of his wits. The same is true for the round-faced woman standing behind him. Her beautiful eyes have been fixed on Luo Yuan's Yingwei's back, and even the quarrels of the crowd did not disturb her at all. Rumbling, the huge slap formed by the power of heaven and earth mixed with the law was directly slapped. The void energy in the place where Luo Yuan was located was violent, and the gust of wind swept all directions. When the divine sense penetrated into it, it was swallowed by the huge energy, which made people unable to move. See interior details. Several houses of the Qin family also collapsed under the impact of this huge force, turning into ruins. Q. Chapter 2257 picked up on the road. HMPH. A piece of trash dares to act presumptuously in front of this old man, that's the fate. After Gao Shan succeeded in a move, the old god put his hands on his back and drank on the ground, as if he had achieved fame. It's just a young man who has only practiced for a few years. I really think that I can compete with the old man and others. I am simply beyond my control. Lu Shui also sneered. What's my fate? Yudi, Luo Yuan's voice came from the chaotic center of energy, and at the same time as the words came out, a little light suddenly flickered over there, and the light spread instantly, forming an invisible circle. Force, push all power away. Luo Yuan reappeared in front of everyone, a layer of source power protection on the surface of his body was solid and thick, as solid as gold. The bright light almost blinded the eyes of Gaoshan Liushui and the elders, and hurt their eyes. Not only was he unharmed, even the round-faced woman who had been standing behind him was not affected at all, but after being disturbed for a while, the round-faced woman frowned unhappily and gave Gaoshan Liushui a vicious look. Gaoshan couldn't help taking a few steps back, looking at Luo Yuan like a ghost. He couldn't believe what he saw. How is it possible? Lu Shui also exclaimed in surprise. He naturally knew how powerful Gao Shan's move was just now. However, even if Luo Yuan is at the third level of Daoyuan, it is impossible to take it head-on without any injuries, but the facts were right in front of him, and he was suddenly terrified. Zhengchu can't find a decent opponent. Luo Yuan grinned grinningly, and that ferocious smile appeared on his face and was imprinted in the eyes of everyone, making people shudder. Since you take the initiative to send them to your door, then I will not be polite. Talking. He actually licked his lips, as if he had been hungry for a long time and suddenly saw a plate of delicious food. This appearance frightened the mountains and rivers. After saying that, Luo Yuan slowly raised his hand, and the mighty source force rolled in his body, making a strange sound like waves hitting rocks. Stop! At the critical moment, a soft shout came. Luo Yuan frowned. Turning his head to look at the place where the voice came from, he found that the person shouting was actually Qin Yu again. He couldn't help but look cold, and said, "What's the matter?" When he was going to attack Yang Kai before, he was stopped by Qin Yu, and now he was going to attack the high mountains and flowing water, but was stopped by Qin Yu. If Qin Yu was not the owner of this place, Luo Yuan would not talk to her. "What do you want to do?" Qin Yu looked at Luo Yuan coldly. "Grit your teeth and drink. Isn't it obvious?" Luo Yuan said, "You still can't see what I want to do." "I can see it." Qin Yu didn't have any fear of Luo Yuan because of the gap in cultivation. Mimo stared at him and said, "It is precisely because I can see that I will stop you." "What do you mean? Please explain clearly." Luo Yuan frowned, with an unhappy expression on his face. "You want to tear down my Qin family?" Qin Yu asked. "I don't have that idea." Luo Yuan replied seriously. "Then don't fight here." Qin Yu snorted, "If you don't want to sleep on the street, find another place to fight." Luo Yuan thought for a while after listening to her words. Nodding his head, he said, "It makes sense. Now all the members of his bafangmen are living in the Qin family. If the Qin family is really demolished, not to mention that the people of the bafangmen have no place to live, and they will lose face." He looked up at the mountains and rivers, and said, "Two old things, come with me." The words fell. With a flash of his figure, he rushed out of the city, and before he left, he flew directly between the two people in the mountains and rivers, full of provocation. How could the high mountains and flowing waters tolerate a junior being so rampant? They all roared angrily and turned to chase after them. In the blink of an eye, the three Daoyuan third-level powerhouses disappeared from everyone's sight. "Hey!" The round-faced woman who had been standing behind Luo Yuan sighed majestically at this moment, with a sad expression on her face. From the beginning to the end, Luo Yuan never glanced at her, which made her feel very sad. At this moment, she glared at Yang Kai and said angrily, "It's all your fault." "What are you blaming me for?" Yang Kai chuckled. "If you hadn't caused trouble, senior brother Luo wouldn't have run away." The round-faced woman pouted, with a playful and cute look. "Then should you still thank me?" Yang Kai asked with a smile. "What do I thank you for?" The round-faced woman squinted at Yang Kai and said sarcastically, "You have something worthy of my gratitude." Yang Kai said as a matter of course, if I hadn't been a hindrance, you wouldn't have seen your brother Luo caring." "Senior brother Luo cares about me." The round-faced woman frowned, a blush appeared on her pretty face, and she stomped her feet and said, "Stop talking nonsense, senior brother Luo, he is so focused on martial arts that he doesn't care about me." After a pause, she asked again expectantly, "Tell me, senior brother Luo, why does he care about me?" Yang Kai hasn't answered yet, but Qin Yu smiled slightly and said, "Girl, you are afraid that some authorities are obsessed. When the mountain guardian hit you just now, did you get injured at all?" "No." The round-faced woman shook her head. "Who protected you?" Qin Yu asked again. Hearing the words, the round-faced woman's beautiful eyes gradually brightened, and the original sadness was swept away, and she became radiant, as if she had received some huge reward, and she smiled all over her face. Qin Yu said, "If your brother Luo really doesn't care about you, you must have been severely injured at this moment. He just did it conveniently, so he didn't care about me." The round-faced woman lowered her head, squirmed, her cheeks were flushed, and she could see the expression of her little daughter at a glance. It can be seen that her heart is probably as sweet as eating candy. "But, aren't you worried about your senior brother Luo? Although the two elders of Gaoshan Liushui have some problems here, but they are not easy to deal with." Yang Kai suddenly asked with a smile, reaching out and knocking on his head. The round-faced woman said, "There is nothing to worry about, those two guys will definitely be beaten and cry for their mothers later." She looked like she had great confidence in Luo Yuan. Speaking of this, she turned her beautiful eyes again, and said with a smile, "Do you still have time to say this? You should worry about yourself first." "What do I have to worry about?" Yang Kai smiled coldly, glanced around, and said disdainfully, "It's just a bunch of rubbish." "What did you say?" "The boy is too arrogant, he has to teach him a lesson." "Whose hairy kid speaks so viciously?" Didn't your parents teach you the word polite? The warriors around suddenly shouted. The 3 strongest people here have already left, and the remaining people naturally have no scruples. Everyone is staring at the million sword in Yongkai's hand, and the little abacus in their hearts is clanging. Hey hey, a half-old man suddenly smiled treacherously, looked at Yongkai warmly and said, "Little brother, where did your sword come from?" "You're talking about this." Yongkai swiped the million sword across his chest and pointed at it. Immediately, the sword light overflowed and the sword fainted. He smiled and said, "I picked it up on the road." "That must be the one that the old man lost a few days ago, no wonder it looks so familiar. Little brother, return it to me," the half-grown old man said quickly. A group of warriors all around looked at the old man dumbfounded, thinking to themselves, "Isn't this too shameless? Even if you want to snatch the treasure, you should always find a better excuse. This excuse is really untenable, even a fool would not believe it. The one I picked up is mine, why should I give it to you?" Yongkai's face sank, and he directly put the million sword into his body. Seeing this scene, the half-grown old man immediately swallowed his saliva, and said anxiously, "Little brother, as long as you are willing to return the sword to the old man will guarantee your prosperity and wealth for the rest of your life. You may not know that this old man is the vice-gu main song Wyron, what you say will definitely count. €1. Yongkai stared at him and said, "I don't believe it." "If you don't believe me, just ask them, they can testify for this old man," the old man said anxiously, pointing at the warriors around him. The warriors around sneered when they heard the words, and all of them acted as if they had nothing to do with themselves. "Look, they don't believe it either," Yongkai teased, "you must be trying to lie to me, baby." Yuewen was in a hurry, his eyes flickered, and he snorted coldly, "Forget it, since you don't want to drink a toast, you can't blame the old man for being cruel." When he spoke, his figure flashed, and his whole body was like a big rock spreading its wings, and he rushed towards Yongkai, with one hand protruding in front of him in a 5-claw shape, with a ruthless expression. What do you want to do?" Yongkai's expression was flustered, and he stepped back incessantly. He, if you want to blame, kid, I will blame you for your bad luck. You dare to show off your treasures to others at the first level of Daoyuan. You are digging your own grave. If you are reincarnated as a human being in the next life, you must remember the truth that everyone is innocent and pregnant with crimes," he said earnestly, but the movements of his hands did not stop at all, and Yongkai squeezed towards him like a wave of killing intent. I will fight with you," Yongkai roared, like a thunder on the ground, and the ears of the people who exploded were buzzing. Already secretly urging the source force, it seems that he took action after waiting for the old man to confront Yongkai. And under this roar, everyone couldn't help but pause slightly. But where Yongkai was, there was a flash of brilliance, and the Emperor Treasure Million Sword was sacrificed by him again, dancing around in a hurry, without any rules at all, as if he had been intimidated by Yuewen's momentum, unable to exert himself strength. "Bring it." Seeing this, Yuewen was overjoyed, stretched out his hand and grabbed the million sword, with an excited look on his face, as if he had seen the beautiful scene where he had won a treasure and was proud of the world from now on. La €1, poof €1. 5 severed fingers flew out in response, and there was bright red blood splattering and bursting. Yuewen stood not far in front of Yongkai, his figure frozen in place, his eyes staring at Yongkai in astonishment, as if he still hadn't recovered from his senses. He just felt a coolness spreading from his hands and chest. Come, and there are pains at the same time. The next moment, he saw a sneering smile appearing on the corner of Yongkai's mouth. This smile made him shiver involuntarily, feeling that something was wrong. To be continued. Chapter 2258 Secret Treasure is good, I want it. Tick, tick. The clear sound of blood dripping reached everyone's ears, and the unique smell of blood quickly filled the air. Everyone was stunned, as if they still didn't understand what happened. When they raised their eyes to look at Yuewen, what they saw shocked them. But seeing, Yuewen's body was stiff on the spot, motionless, still maintaining that pounce posture, but on the big hand he stretched out, all 5 fingers had been severed at the root, the wound was smooth and shiny, and blood gushed out. That's all, the key is that half of the sword tip came out from behind Yuewen's body, and the blood dripped down the sword tip continuously, splashed on the ground, dyed the ground red, and slowly gathered into a crimson stream. Gudong. There was a sound of swallowing saliva, and everyone asked themselves in their minds, what's going on? They only saw Yuewen rushing towards Yongkai aggressively just now, while Yongkai waved the secret treasure in a panic to deal with it. They thought that Yongkai would definitely be injured by Yuewen and take away the secret treasure, but they didn't want to. The final outcome was so shocking. Looking at this, it seems that Yuewen accidentally bumped into the tip of the sword. And the wound is right at the center of the socket. At this moment, even the heart veins have been severed, and there is no possibility of survival. The eyes of some warriors flickered, as if they realized something. The original contempt and disdain were instantly restrained, and the expressions looking at Yongkai became dignified. Others, on the other hand, still looked dazed. Yuewen opened his mouth and spit out a word at Yongkai. Before he had a chance to finish his sentence, there was a lot of blood in his mouth, and the blood was like a fountain, pouring out of his mouth uncontrollably. "You're looking for death, you can't blame me," Yongkai yelled, and slapped Yuewen's chest, sending him flying away. In midair, Yuewen's vitality quickly dissipated, and his eyes quickly became lifeless. When he landed, he was exhausted and died in an extremely miserable state. The deputy valley owner of Zhenwu Valley died in such a small city like Fenggalan City for no apparent reason. Before coming here, Yuewen would never have imagined that he would end up like this. "You actually killed Vice Gujuku," a middle-aged man suddenly shouted with a stern expression. Looking at him, he seemed to know or be familiar with Yuewen. Seeing Yuewen die in front of his eyes, how could he let it go? When he shouted angrily, he shook his wrist, and a golden light suddenly appeared on the palm of his hand. He yelled, "Boy, you will be arrested obediently. Follow me to Zhenwu Valley to plead guilty. Maybe there is still a glimmer of life, otherwise there is no doubt that he must die." When the words fell, the golden light in his hand exploded and turned into a big golden net, covering Yongkai head-on. In his mind, the reason why Yuewen died tragically in Yongkai's hands was because he was too careless, and the second was because the secret treasure in Yongkai's hands was so sharp that he ended up like that. How could a mere first-level cultivation base kill Yuewen who had lost Daoyuan third level in such a short time? A man made a mistake, a horse stumbled, Yuewen fell into the gutter. He was afraid of the sharpness of the million sword, so he didn't plan to fight Yongkai personally at all. He just planned to use his secret treasure to restrain Yongkai first. I don't know what the golden light net is made of. It exudes the energy fluctuations of Daoyuan level secret treasures. Once it is displayed, it seems to block this piece of world. An invisible force surges up and down, forming a unique the power of blockade. Dianfeng, the knowledgeable person shouted, and instantly recognized the name of the secret treasure, and his face couldn't help changing slightly. The middle-aged man let out a cold snort, made a formula in his hand, and put his mind out, controlling the power of his secret treasure. Yongkai fell back a few steps, but no matter how he fled, he couldn't escape the enveloping range of the Dian net, and was always covered by that invisible blocking force, which made him also surprised. Extremely, I secretly feel that there are many capable people and strange men in this world, and they can even refine such strange secret treasures. Boy, you can't escape. I haven't missed this Dian net since I successfully refined it. Give up resisting. The golden net above the head fell leisurely, directly covering Yongkai, and then suddenly closed it, turning into a ball of golden light and completely sealing it. Ha 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 ha. The middle-aged man couldn't help laughing when he saw the blow, but when he smiled, his smile froze on his face. Possible. In the golden light, Yongkai, who was restrained by the Dian net, slowly faded and disappeared quickly. It was just an afterimage. It's dangerous, it's dangerous. Yongkai's voice suddenly came from the side, and the middle-aged man fixed his eyes and saw him wiping the cold sweat on his forehead with a lingering fear. Boy, you. The middle-aged man's complexion changed slightly, and he couldn't figure out how Yongkai escaped from the blocking power of his secret treasure, and he didn't even notice it at all. Not bad, this secret treasure is not bad, I want it. Yongkai said as he stretched out his hand to grab the golden light. Ah, the middle-aged man was startled. Seeing Yongkai grabbing the golden light in the palm of his hand, he suddenly became anxious, and the source power in his body was urged, and the magic arts in both hands changed endlessly. The golden light that was held by Yongkai in the palm of his hand suddenly buzzed non-stop, and a strong resistance passed over, causing Yongkai's big hand to go numb. After all, this is a secret treasure refined by others painstakingly. It is connected with the middle-aged man, and Yongkai is so tough to grab it, so naturally he can't get it smoothly. Sensing the resistance in this secret treasure, Yongkai's eyes flashed sharply. he raised his head, looked at the middle-aged man and said, "Look at me." What? The middle-aged man, who was controlling his secret treasure out of Yang Kai's control, was stunned and looked up. The next moment, he suddenly shivered, and a creepy feeling filled his heart. A pure soul power suddenly charged from the front. The force was powerful and pure, like a sharp sword spanning from ancient times, cutting through the middle-aged man's soul defense, and instantly rushed into his sea of a euro consciousness. There was a violent storm in the sea. Ah! The middle-aged man turned pale for a moment, covered his head and screamed loudly. When the bystanders saw this scene, they were shocked and moved away from the middle-aged man. After eating Yang Kai's soul shock, the sea of a euro consciousness was chaotic, and the soul was shaken, and the middle-aged man didn't have the time to control his Xuanjin pocket Skynet. With Yang Kai's strength in his hand, under the ups and downs of the source power, he directly suppressed the resistance of the secret treasure, poured the power of the soul into it, and erased the imprint of the soul left by the other party in 3 breaths, and then threw it into it. In his own space ring. This secret treasure was actually snatched away by him like this. Everyone turned pale, and finally realized that something was wrong. Snatching secret treasures is not something ordinary people can do. Unless there is a huge difference in the cultivation of the 2 souls, the original owner's soul imprint can be erased in such a short period of time, otherwise it is impossible to enter the space ring. But Yang Kai did it. In other words, he absolutely erased the imprint of the middle-aged man's spirit within that extremely short period of time, which also meant that his spirit power was much stronger than that of the middle-aged man. At this point, everyone gasped. "Pretend to be a pig and eat a tiger." Someone shouted, looking at Yang Kai belatedly and fearfully, a strong look of fear flashed in his eyes. If it is said that Ku Weiren's death was due to his own carelessness and accidentally hit Yang Kai's sword tip, then the middle-aged man's experience cannot be explained by carelessness. This is definitely the crushing of strength, and it cannot be explained by luck. The middle-aged man who shot at Yang Kai was still covering his head, laying on the ground and interrupting constantly. It seemed that the injury was not serious, and he didn't know if he could get better, but the soul was injured. Even if he could, it would take a huge amount of time and energy to recover, and if he didn't do it well, he would be muddle-headed and become an idiot for the rest of his life. Who else has a good secret treasure? Take it out and have a look. Yang Kai looked around and smiled coldly. Everyone took a few steps back in time, and each of them felt funny. People like myself originally had the idea of a euro Yang Kai's secret treasure, but they didn't expect the situation to be reversed now. This kid seems to have tasted the sweetness, and he couldn't stop. No, my secret treasure is only of Void King level quality, and my little brother definitely doesn't like it. Someone explained seriously. Void King level quality is so powerful, my secret treasure is only Void Return level. One person immediately answered. When everyone heard this, they all looked at that guy with black lines on their faces. The man suddenly yelled, "What? I'm too poor. Is it embarrassing to use the void returning secret treasure in Daoyuan realm? What are you looking at?" As he spoke, he turned his face away, clasped his fists at Yang Kai with a smile and said, "Brother Void Return Grade Secret Treasure, you shouldn't be interested. It's fine if you're not interested. I think I still have something important to do. Let's take a step first and say goodbye." When the words fell, regardless of Yang Kai's attitude, he ran away directly. The others also reacted, and each of them secretly cursed that person for seeing the opportunity quickly, and quickly clasped fists at Yang Kai, retreating one after another. "Wait!" Yang Kai suddenly snorted coldly. Everyone was startled when they heard the words, and they all turned around, looking at Yang Kai vigilantly, lest he do something that would be unfavorable to them. "Come when you want, leave when you want, how can there be such an easy thing in this world?" Yang Kai snorted coldly. Gudong. Everyone swallowed their saliva, their faces were ugly, and they all realized that it was broken. They were really afraid of something, and they didn't know what this kid wanted to do. Yang Kai snorted, pointed to the ground, and said, "Take the corpse and this guy who is like a butcher." "What a euro. Yes. Hurry up and help." The crowd shouted, dragged away Ku Weiren's body and the middle-aged man who was still screaming, and quickly disappeared.